Hello, hello, hi! Welcome in. Am I in the wrong scene? Hello there, Stanley. Time to vibe? Hopefully you're able to vibe here. We are not drawing today. We are finishing the last route of Dead Man's Rest. Cowboy visual novel. Where the heck are my scenes? Wait, I didn't prepare. Yeah. How are you doing, Stanley? How's everyone today? What am I looking for? Oh my god. What am I looking for? Right here, right here, right here. Why is it... Wait, why is it... Oh! Wait, no. Wait, yeah. Wait, I'm in the wrong... I'm in the wrong scene. Here, let me go here. There we go. Okay, 16:9 game, not a 4:3 game. Had a rough night. It's still night right now, but it's always a pleasure being here. It's always a pleasure having you here, Stanley. I hope I'm able to help you feel a little bit better. Ease that rough night away. Yeah, we're gonna start the final route, the one I'm most excited to get to. Wild Bill McCoy. We gotta do it. That night started just like any other. My butt was sitting on a rattler on my way to some two-bit town in the back end of nowhere. Golders Rock, they call it, though I never heard of no gold there. Never heard of it at all until 2 days ago. I think this is your story time. This is your bedtime story, Stanley. I got a tip from one of my associates that a wanted criminal by the name of Wild Bill McCoy was hiding out there. Oh wait, I totally forgot. Hold on, I'm not prepared. Pause, pause, pause. I'm gonna disappear for a second. Pause. I totally forgot. My disembodied voice. What am I? Silly? What am I? What am I? Let me change this setting. God. Alright. Wait. No. Wait. Okay, wait. I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared. It's 4 a.m. so you can't go back to sleep now. Okay, here's your early morning morning story. Your post-bedtime story. Okay, I'm gonna do it like this. Yeah! The disembodied voice is no longer. Yeehaw! Howdy, y'all. This is Jackal, aka Lobertinger, Sheriff of Yowie. We are gonna resume this. Did I read this? I got a tip, yeah. Wild Bill McCoy's hiding out here. See? I'm a bounty hunter by trade. I prefer living the drifter's life. Just me and my revolver. Easier that way. You ain't got nothing to lose but your life. Ain't been long since old McCoy and I had a run-in last time. Hey, watch what you're calling adorable out here in these parts. Mr. Stanley. Just kidding, thank you. Tipping my hat to you. This one's a bit personal. I wanted to see McCoy dead for a long time. Everyone around here knows he's my target, and they ain't gonna interfere unless they want a bullet in their face. He got away once, and he ain't doing it twice. Yeah, he's not getting away. This time around. Something else was going on that night, though, while I was on that dusty train. See, there had been some sort of trouble there. The highfalutin mayor, you see, didn't have too many friends. Seems someone was out to get him. My supplies at the supply store! The saloon was full, buckaroos playing cards, cheating cards, and drinking all night long. The mayor was at the bar. He'd been on the red eye since dusk, and at midnight, he tipped his hat and left the saloon all roostered. Hey, Jed, have a good night! That's what the mayor sounds like now. Bad move for a man with enemies. Guys watched him go, tottering around. Something bad was about it. Was bound to happen. Seems he made it home, though, just about the time I drifted into town. First place I went was the saloon, a dirty, crumbling old joint by the name of Dead Man's Rest. Sound familiar? Full of guys, the mayor had only just lit 5 minutes before I arrived. No man paid me attention except the barkeep. That was fine with me. I was dragged out. Got myself diggings there for just a few Lincoln skins and settled in. Figured I'd rest for the night and set out at sunrise to settle the score with Wild Bill. Ain't no way I could have foresaw what would happen that night, or the kind of men I was about to meet. Ominous. Ominous. Who got shot? Take your guesses. Who got shot? Who pulled the trigger? Oh my god, the music is so quiet because I turned it down because it was so loud at the menu. Can I turn it up? I don't know if you're hearing anything. I'm not hearing anything. Anime cowboy, you got that right. Target sighted. Target sighted. Check. Did that. Check. Did that. Check. Did that. That's us. Target sighted. Yeehaw. Yeehaw! The cowboys are pretty cute. I'm glad you think so. I think technically only 3 of them are cowboys. Quote unquote cowboys. Us, the sheriff, and then Wild Bill McCoy, who we're going after this time. Because the other ones are a ranch hand, a bartender, and Native American. I got up the next morning thinking nothing was amiss. Packed up my plunder and headed down to the bar, intending to be out of town and over to Wild Bill's hideout by noon. Your bisexuality's spiking right now. Let's go. The barkeep stopped me as I was heading out the door. There was a tall man with long blonde hair and a kind-looking face. Hey stranger, you hear about what happened last night? Didn't hear nothing. Mayor Dalton's gone and been done. Found dead as a doornail first thing. Sheriff's rounding up a bunch of guys for questioning. Old Dalton didn't have a lot of friends. This wasn't good news. Ain't never good news when a shooting happens in the town you're in. Too much attention. And even worse, I was an outsider. Not Logan Paul. What's Logan Paul doing in here? For all they knew, I could have been hired to do it. The barkeep was looking at me like he thought I might have been hiding something. I kept his gaze. Sounds like some bad business is going around here. Wait, look at this little art glitch. Oh, what the? What's happening? You can call it that. Best watch your back though, stranger. It seems the streets ain't safe. Especially if they think you did it. You think I did it? You looked at me for a long time. Nah, don't reckon you did. Good. You're clearly a discerning man. I say what I see, and what I see is a stranger who ain't got nothing to do with it. I got my own theories, though. Good to have theories. I ain't involved, though, and want to stay that way. Maybe I'll see you around. Sure. I left the saloon and stepped out into the street. Been through the desert on a horse with no name. This sounds like it should be a reference. But I don't know what you're referencing. If you're referencing something. Seemed like news spread fast in this little town. People are all over, whispering and pointing. I spat on the ground. Patooey! Looked like I was gonna have to make a statement. Show these guys I weren't no killer. It's a song. I was like thinking like Fallout? But no, that's that I don't even know what they say in that song. One of the radio songs on New Vegas. At least not outside of the law. Before I could do anything, though, I heard another voice behind me. Oi, stranger. I want a word with you. I turned around to see the sheriff standing square and looking me in the eyes. He had a groomed mustache and slick hair, looking like he took good care of himself. What for? Acknowledge the corn, stranger. I think you know what's going on. Ain't nothing going on as far as I'm concerned, except my job. And what's that? Bringing criminals to justice, same as you. I took out the crumpled wanted poster and my bounty hunter's badge from my bag and showed him. Wild Bill McCoy ain't gonna turn himself over, so can I get on my way? He looked over my stuff, then back up at me. He didn't want to let me go easy, especially since folk were watching. I don't trust you, stranger. You're high on the list for who might have committed this crime, and ain't no way I'm letting you skip town. You try to leave, I'll put a bullet in your back. He gave me back my papers and badge, and I put them into my bag. Sounds mighty impressive, but I know you can't shoot no innocent man, Sheriff. You can't prove nothing on me, so your hands are tied. Cowboy anime is pretty surprising to you, you don't know why. There should be more cowboy anime. We glared at each other for a minute. He knew he couldn't keep me there. Thing is, the longer he was suspecting me, the less he was spending looking for the real killer. The longer it took to find the real killer, the longer he'd suspect me. But that whole time, the harder it'd be to find and kill Bill. I sighed. You want my help, Sheriff? I ain't bad at finding stuff out, and I want justice, same as you. The sheriff didn't look too pleased at that. Keep your nose out and let me do my job, Greenhorn. You don't know anything about these parts. I sized him up. No. But I know a lot about the kind of men I meet. Oh, give me 1 second. I'm getting a phone call. Let me see if it's something I need to pick up. I muted the wrong audio track, but it was not the call I was expecting, so I'm waiting for. So we're good. Men are the same everywhere, you see, Sheriff. He narrowed his eyes. He knew what I was implying, what I was accusing him of. He spat at my feet. I'm handling this investigation, so don't get in my way. And don't leave town. Don't shoot me. Don't shoot. He turned away, spurs clicking, and sauntered off back to the station. Seemed I wasn't going anywhere, so I wheeled round and went back into the saloon. Are there any other cowboy anime type things? Hakutua, you could say. I am not like, I have no idea where that came from, nor do I care to find out where that came from. I just see it and I'm like, okay, I don't need to know the context. Bill would have to wait. It looked like I had a new job on my hands. The barkeep was washing up when I went back in. He gave me a hard look but didn't say nothing. I sat down at a table and turned my badge over in my hands. I needed to figure a way out of this before it got ugly. At that point, I overheard two guys sitting one table over. Yeah, old Hollis. Heard he went to speak to Dalton the other day. Thought them two never spoke. Thought they hated each other. They did, but Hollis was completely soaked the other night and kept going on about family ties and all that bull. Could be there's something fishy there. Shh, not so loud when you're accusing folk. Anyone in this rumhole could hear us. They shot me a glance and I looked down at my badge again. That sure was interesting. Some strange family member who could be involved in this? I thought perhaps that'd be a good place to start investigating. I don't know if we're gonna be doing much investigating this time around, not gonna lie. Let me save just in case. Oh, I went. Okay, let me start here. On the other hand, these leaky mouths probably have no idea. I'd have to rely on more than just gossip to work this mess out. Seems Lady Luck was on my side. Before too long, the barkeep came round to my table. Howdy, stranger. Can I get you something? Howdy. Nah, I'm good. His eyes shone with curiosity. Seems he likes to know who's coming in and out of his saloon. I gestured at a chair by the table. Want a seat? Don't mind if I do. On the clock, bro? He pulled out the chair and sat down. For a moment, he didn't say nothing. He had an easygoing manner about him, made a man feel calm. I found myself admiring his hair. It looked sleek, like he took good care of it. Too quickly, I had to derail that train of thought. Lee is pretty cute. Yeah, he's not that bad. Okay, you're done. His picture on the menu screen that's a different man though. This Lee's better. Also, I just realized he has no, it looks like a scar on his eye, but I think it's just a shadow. Never mind, it's not a scar. It weren't gonna lead to anywhere good. Before long, he spoke up. Feel free to fangirl, fanboy, fan, whatever the non-binary term for that is, like all you guys want. Like, I am more than okay. I welcome that, actually. So, what brings you to town? You said last night you was just passing through. Yeah, then that happened. I thumbed over my shoulder towards the street. Sheriff Cartwright says, on account of the murder, I ain't to leave town. The barkeep sighed. Yeah, he gets all wound up sometimes, and it ain't nothing changes his mind. For what it's worth, stranger, like I told you before, I don't think you done it. You're not a fan, but you are now. Yeehaw! No? Nah. Dalton had a lot of enemies, people lining up to make sure he had an accident. You weren't one of them, so what do you care? Killing him only puts fat on the fire for you. At least, if what you're saying about not staying in town is true. I like this guy. He was really easy to be around. Pretty useful skill for a barkeep, and dangerous to stay near him too long. More dangerous for me than most. Sitting here with him, it made me feel more comfortable than I should have been. The name's Lee McCarthy. I held out my hand and he gave it a firm shake. I've heard of you. Blackjack, right? The bounty hunter? The very same. I'm Jedediah Matlock. Everyone calls me Jed. It's nice to formally meet ya. Pleasure's mine. He let go of my hand with a smile. That's right. Boy, was I in trouble for this one. With this one. So you must be on the lookout for Wild Bill then. I was surprised he caught on like that. Had I been making it obvious? How'd you know? He shrugged. Man, here's things around here. Some gang of ruffians turns up a month past, causing trouble. They tried a major heist at the bank last week, so they gotta be pretty organized by some... Wait, what? They gotta be organized by someone pretty dangerous. Okay. I can read. Then the famous Blackjack shows up out of nowhere, and everyone knows Blackjack has his eyes set on Bill. Ain't hard to piece it all together. I was impressed by him. He had a smart head on his shoulders, not what you expect from your average barkeep. It also meant I had to be careful what I say around him, until I knew where his loyalties lay. Couldn't be too careful. Word gets around fast in a town like this. You're pretty sharp, Jed. Was it me, or was he blushing a little at that? He said, tee-hee! Nah, just get used to hearing things is all, being a barkeep. Folks say a lot more than they ought to when they've been on the Who Hit John. Been running this joint for 3 years now, and they don't ever change. Long time. You from around here then? Nah, I'm just further out west. I'm from further out west, just ended up here one day and saw the opportunity. I didn't ask how someone like him ended up in the butt end of nowhere. Usually, they weren't good stories. Seems like you've made a success of it. He appeared to appreciate me not asking any further after his past. Yeah, it ain't a bad life. He looked me square over and seemed to come to a decision. He leaned in conspiratorially. I followed suit, sensing he was going to say something important. I had to concentrate hard on what he was saying, instead of on his eyes. They were like the color of a summer sky in Arizona. Say, if you're really after Bill, I can help you. I like you, and it'd be good for all of us if Bill was out of the way. I got a condition, though. More ways than one. With his face so close to mine, I felt like I'd give this man anything he wanted. What's that? You gotta come back by tonight. I don't want to see you up the spout because you didn't obey the sheriff. And I don't want him coming to me asking where you got your information. It'll get a lot more difficult for us both. Can you promise that? I locked eyes with him. This man seemed honest, and I wanted to do right by him. He knew what he was asking of me. To stay here, even though he was going to give me the means to get out. He was putting his trust in me. I wasn't sure I deserved it, but by gum, I was going to try my dangest to show it weren't misplaced. Sure, I'll be back. Count on it. I spit in my palm and offered it to him, and he did the same. A gentleman's oath. Alright then, I heard Bill's camped up at the old farmhouse northeast of the river. It's about half a day's journey from here on foot. Follow the path out of town past the station, then head east until you hit the riverbank. It'll take you straight up towards it. He leaned back again, looking around as 2 new guys entered the saloon. Gotta go. You'd better be back by sundown. Will we be back by sundown? X to doubt. I nodded to him as he headed back to the bar. I had the information I'd come for. I knew where to find Bill, and right now, there was nobody watching me. Now the question was, what should I do? Head straight out to the hideout. I can scope it out and head back by sundown. Sheriff had made his opinion clear this morning. No chance he was letting me go anywhere. I just have to take the risk. I stood up, scraping the stool back, nodded to Jed, and headed out, following the path out of town like he told me. was a baking hot day. The air was sticking to me something nasty. I was sure glad I had my Stetson. It was a little cooler when I got near the river. I don't know what a Stetson is. I don't know, they didn't have the glossary for that. I followed its course, keeping a lookout for coyotes, rattlesnakes, or any manner of creature that might have come for a drink. A lot of ways to get bit out west. And weren't long before I saw the beginnings of a trail forming. Stuffed cowboys leave behind. A torn piece of leather here, a cigar stub there. I was getting close, no doubt about it. Heading away from the river, the trail turned into a little gully which sheltered the dearest old farmhouse you ever did see. Wow, in the daytime. We never saw this art in the daytime. It looked like it'd been out of use for some time until the bandits arrived. Now, of course, it was overrun with louts. 6 of them that I could see. One of which... Wild Bill McCoy himself. Wild in quotations. Just seeing him made me grind my teeth. That SOB deserved everything coming to him. If it weren't for him, if it weren't for that night... Dang, but I hated him. I hated him more than I could ever imagine hating a man. You know what they say? The opposite of love is not hate. Just then, one of the other guys turned my way. I pulled my eyes off Bill and scrambled up the slope above the gully. They hadn't seen me yet. I watched as they went about their business. I could hear them talking from here. Loud mouths. Grubby Mudsill? Is that his nickname? Or is that like our descriptor for it? Yeah, it all went straight to plan. Our 2 guys are in town waiting. His text is a maroon. Don't get ahead of yourself. His voice was just like I remembered. I heard it in my dreams from time to time, clear as anything. I grit my teeth and made a fist. We gotta wait for her to give us the signal. It ain't safe yet, and we gotta go by our orders. Who the devil were they talking about? Ain't never heard of no woman taken up with Bill's gang before. Just keep taking what we need from those natives. They owe us good money. Shouldn't be a long wait now. Sounds like they've been harassing the local natives too. If nothing else, this was a gold mine of information. I bet they had something to do with the murder. Everything to do with it, probably. If only I could get a clear shot from here, I'd blow that sneer right off Bill's face. Wouldn't do me much good, though. Ain't as if I could collect his body from down there with all those men around. I only had 5 beans in the wheel. Oh my god. Calling bullets beans? Why can't I click on this glossary item? Oh well. Okay, oh wait, now I can. When there are 5 bullets in a 6-chambered revolver, 5 beans in the wheel, they'd be on me quick as a cat, and I'd be on the little end of the horn. Which means suffering when the outcome of an endeavor does not outweigh the losses incurred in the process. What? When the outcome does not outweigh the loss? Okay, whatever. No, I had to wait for the right time. Problem was, as I looked up at the sky, it was clear I didn't have much time left, if I was going to keep my promise. It was hard to remember what I said to Jed with Bill so close by. Everything in my life had been about killing this man for so long. I'm a man of my word, and I ain't never broken an oath before. It's bad luck. I don't want to start now, but Bill's so close, and if I go back to town, who knows when I'll have another shot at him. I was torn. Oh, what do we do? Oh wow, I never encountered this part of I guess this would be just going back to the common route. I can't let Bill get away again. He's gotta bite the dust. We've been dreaming about this man for so long. We remembered his voice for so long. This was where it'd finally end. I settled down on top of the ridge to wait. Did I save, actually? Okay, I did. I was glad I left the town behind me. Never been the best at handling folk in any case, especially when something bad went down. Best to leave that up to the professionals and just keep my head down. Do my job, hand Bill in at the next town over, and leave this part of the world far behind me. Right now, I had to focus on the bounty hunting part. Bill was waiting just down the gully, the man I'd pursued for 8 long years. That is a long time to be thinking about one man. Come nightfall, I'd go down there and finally settle the score. It was a rough wait. The ground was packed and dry, and I was still more than a little sore from the train ride here. Still, there could be worse places to be. I wondered if they'd noticed me absent from town yet. No doubt that nosy sheriff would be busy drawing up wanted posters of me right about now. I didn't care one jot. Let him think I did it. I know I did it. Weren't like I'd ever be coming back to this 2-bit place anyhow. Thought night was not far off. The fading light and buzzing insects made me drowsy. Is that supposed to be though night was not far off? I think so. I decided to take a quick rest, putting my hat over my face and resting behind a nice rock. This is how we get caught. Hello? This is how we get snatched. You think they don't patrol? Sometime after that, I was roughly shaken awake. It weren't too dark yet, so I couldn't have been out that long. Unfortunately, it seemed I hadn't been careful enough. One of Bill's goons, a bald thug-looking brute, had me by the shoulder, while another shorter mustachio type stood back appraising me. I figured my best shot was to play dumb. Whoa there, you startled me, stranger. Dangerous place to be falling asleep, pal. These ain't the kind of parts men should be walking alone. My mistake. I was just passing through on the way out of town. Decided to take a short stop. Both of them narrowed their eyes at me. They didn't seem like the brightest sparks, but my alibi sounded lame even to me. Oh, and where's your horse? Don't have one. Just a poor man going by foot, looking for work. Definitely not looking for any trouble. Oh? Then you won't mind if we search you and take your toll for passing by before you get on your way. I really don't have anything worth taking. It was true. I barely had any greenbacks left after paying for the stay at Jed's. The second guy was rifling through my bag as I spoke, and he snorted. Seems he ain't lying. He's got nothing. Oh, what's this? Mitch, the boss will want to see this guy. Is it the wanted poster we kept? We have on hand? Huh? Eh? The mustachioed man looked over at me with a triumphant sneer and brandished my bounty hunter's badge at me. Oh. Right, our badge. Whenever we mention the badge, I keep thinking about Ace Attorney. Phoenix's attorney badge you could show everyone. I like how they couldn't draw bald people, so they didn't bother giving him an avatar. I think they only gave quote-unquote important NPCs an avatar. Well, not even, because in another route they gave like this drunk old man a avatar, but his face was like shadowed. He didn't have a face. Well, shoot. I guess I'd be hoping they wouldn't know what that was. You're coming with us, mister. Don't struggle or you'll upset my friend Mitch here. I held my hands up and allowed them to tie me. Roughly, they grabbed the rope and pushed me towards the farmhouse. I cursed myself for falling asleep, for not being careful enough. Come on. McCoy, you had one chance. Like, this is... I thought we were trading for this. Why had I settled so close to the camp? Why hadn't I kept a better lookout? I had no idea how I was going to get out of this situation. Because you could bet your last dime Bill would know exactly who I was and why I was here. You don't know if you ever saw a bald anime person? They definitely exist. They're usually like the side characters. And usually like, I mean, monks? I think they're usually like older characters too, not really. The younger characters would have like shaved heads. And that meant I'd be dead within the hour. As they manhandled me down the trail, I looked from side to side, trying to see if there was any way out. Mitch, the large one, had me held fast though, and his companion was walking right beside us, watching my every move. They were a lot more thorough than I'd been. I'd give them that. Oh, Lee. Eventually, we made it down the slope and arrived at the main camp. Bill was still sitting there where I'd seen him earlier, with that woman I didn't know. My blood boiled at the sight of him grinning at her. He had no right to be happy, not after what he'd done. That thought tumbled out of my head the second his gaze snapped over to us, and then directly to me. His eyes looked like I'd never seen. There was some kind of raw something in his expression, like that of a wild animal. They do call him Wild Bill McCoy. Maybe he'd always been like that, and I'd forgotten in my long years chasing him. But somehow, with the roiling in his eyes, he felt more dangerous than ever. Well, well, what do we have here? Bill roughly pushed the woman off his lap and stood up, brushing himself down and making his way over to us. The thugs halted in the center of the camp and threw me to the ground. I landed hard with a dusty thump. Found him outside camp, boss. He's a bounty hunter, tailing you. Oh, I know who he is. Me and Blackjack go way back, don't we? I struggled to lift my head up and get into a sitting position with my hands still tied. I wouldn't let Bill have the satisfaction of standing over me while I lay on the ground. Finally pulling myself upright, I stared him straight in the eye and refused to answer. But I let him see the anger coursing through every vein in my body. He chuckled and waved at his men. You can go. Carry on with whatever you was doing. Looks like Blackjack and I got a lot to catch up on. Obediently, the two left, the mustachioed man dropping my bag at my feet and spitting on it as he did. A lot of spitting happening. Bill lifted his leg up and placed it on a rock, leaning his arms on his knee as he looked down at me smugly. Are we not inside a building? I guess not. Like, where's this rock coming from? Letting yourself get caught, McCarthy? That ain't like you. You losing your touch after all these years? Or maybe I just had more respect for you than you deserved. I didn't say a word, just kept meeting his gaze. Bill McCoy wouldn't respond to words. He was only trying to goad me. And I weren't going to give him what he wanted. He sighed and spat on the floor again with the spitting saliva flying everywhere. You ain't no fun. Bill glanced back at the woman who was sitting where he'd left her, pouting slightly, eyelashes fluttering. He grinned at her and raised his eyebrows, then turned back to me. Well, I've got something to get back to. He drew out a revolver from his belt and cocked it with a click. You got any last words, McCarthy? Hurry up with it, cause I ain't got all day. I stared down the barrel of the gun at him. The man I hated more than anyone or anything else in the world. I'd wanted to be on the other end of this gun. I never thought about what my last words would be. Should I apologize to Jimmy? In the end, I couldn't do what needed to be done. Should I make some statement about not fearing death? Or should I try to appeal to God in the last few moments I had? Instead, I decided to face Bill and tell him what I thought he should hear. Oh, we get to choose. Somehow, from wherever I go, I'm gonna make you pay for what you've done. Mark my words. Why don't you untie me and face me in a fair duel like a real man, McCoy? That's not gonna work, I don't think. Watch it work. I'm gonna choose the first one first. Mark my words. And then we get shot and we die. Game over. Bill cocked his head for a minute, then chuckled. He dropped his gaze to the side and back up to me, then lowered the pistol. I weren't sure what was happening. Faced with a point-blank gun, I threatened him, and he was backing down? Now them's fighting words, McCarthy. It'd be a shame, wouldn't you agree, to end our acquaintance like this on that basis? I like a man who'll stand up like that, who ain't afraid of nobody. Yeah? But I'm dang well gonna teach you to fear me. And then, when you're broken, I'm gonna put that bullet between your eyes. Somehow, I cheated certain death. But from what Bill said, I weren't sure I was any better off alive. I had to find my way out of this situation, and sharpish. Bill holstered his pistol again, then grabbed the rope tying my hands and yanked me up from the floor. You're gonna enjoy my hospitality for a while, Blackjack. Yeah, I know I will. I don't know about McCarthy, at least at first, but... Reluctantly struggling, I was dragged away from the middle of the camp and into the barn beside the farmhouse. It was old and moldy, and a draft blew in from the rotting roof. Bill tied me to a post in the center of the room and snickered. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun together. With that ominous sentence, Bill sneered and then vanished out to his cooing girl, leaving me alone in the old barn. I sank down to the floor, cursing my stupidity all over again. I'd been so careful for so long, yet slipped at the last fence. I wondered what Bill had in store for me. Whatever it was, I was sure I weren't gonna like it. I started rubbing the rope, tying my hands up against the back of the column. I was grasping at straws, I knew that, but I had to try to do something. After coming so far, Jimmy wouldn't have wanted to see me hang up my hat before it was through. Before long, though, my arms started to get real tired. I decided to rest them just for a while. Before I knew it, I'd fallen dead asleep. We just woke up from sleeping. It'd be like that. I was shaken awake again, my neck cricked, my back aching, and with nothing but darkness all around. He's so close. Nothing, that is, set Bill's sneering face inches away from me. What's wrong with you, McCarthy? Sleeping at a time like this? I expected more of a fight. Where's that spirit you showed me earlier, I summoned all the strength I could and spit right in his face. There we go. More spitting. F you, McCoy. If you're gonna shoot me, then dang well get this over with. There ain't no honor in keeping me here like this. We say as we wanted to... Actually, no. What we said does not contradict this situation. Bill laughed, high and cold enough to send a shiver down my spine. Your mistake there is thinking I'm an honorable man, McCarthy. You know better than most, I ain't got a shred of conscience in me. Ain't that right? I narrowed my eyes, able to make out his figure more clearly in the dim light now that I was adjusted. He was knelt down in front of me, face forward, head tilted in a teasing manner. How I hated him. He stood up then, and before I could do anything, he kicked a cloud of dust into my face, making me cough. See, thing is, McCarthy, the way I see it, I'm doing everything what's right by God. You and your kind, you freaks of nature, don't belong on this here good earth. I'm fixing the divine mistakes. Like your pretty little boyfriend. What was his name again? He was playing dumb and saying what he knew would get to me. I knew he was. I knew he was trying to make me get mad. Didn't mean it weren't working though. We know McCarthy is easily baited. Bill had always had a way of knowing exactly how to push a man to anger. You dang well know his name, you rat. I'm not saying that. I don't recall. There have been so many I've put down, you see? Hard to remember every single one of you dogs. You're all the same to me, you know? Filthy, blasphemous, disgusting freaks what don't even deserve a bullet to the head. You probably forgot your old friend's name, too. It ain't like he was a real human anyways. I couldn't stand it no more. My throat almost tore as I yelled it out. Jimmy Kiefer! His name is Jimmy! You shot him dead 8 years ago. A bullet to the back out of nowhere while he was playing cards. He never did nothing to you, and you took him out like a coward because you couldn't face him like a man. You could never face any of them what you killed, could you? Just like right now, taking the coward's way, mocking me, tying me down because you know if you let me fight back, I'll dang well kill you. You're the worst kind of man, Bill McCoy, and there's a special place waiting on the devil's door for you. Bill laughed again, twirling a cigarette between his fingers and leaning back casually against the wall. I was seething, but he didn't seem fazed at all in the face of my fury. There's that spark. Keep it coming, Blackjack. I like it when you're all fired up. It's gonna make finally putting you down all the sweeter. My shoulders shook as I grit my teeth. This man was the lowest kind of scum. Killing honest folks one thing, McCoy, but when you're doing it without letting them defend themselves, that ain't right. I know you ain't got no honor or no morals. But at least have the decency to face me in a fair fight. Prove you're the better man. Bill stepped up right close to me and put his face near mine. That's the thing, McCarthy. You ain't no man, so them rules don't apply to you. I know I'm the better man already, by virtue of not being a freak of nature. Just like all them others. Including your pretty lover boy, Jimmy Kiefer. Period, he says. Bill's smug face was inches away from me. If he leaned just a little closer, I could headbutt him into next Tuesday. Didn't seem like the smartest idea, though, given the position I was in. He could geld me, or even worse, and I wouldn't be able to do stuff about it. I met his taunting gaze and answered him instead. What are we saying? What are we saying to good old Wild Bill McCoy? I'll bet every single one of them was a better man than you'll ever be, McCoy. An outlaw in denial of his crimes, that ain't a good look. Let's go with the first one. That sounds more McCarthy. Bill chuckled in my face, his breath ghosting over me. They weren't no men at all. I wouldn't expect you to understand, being what you are. But don't worry. You'll get to join your precious Jimmy soon. Then, all of a sudden, Bill got real close. So close, I could see the faint stubble on his chin even through the darkness. He grabbed my face hard and stared into my eyes with the same roiling, raw intensity that I'd seen in him earlier. Oh! Oh, the game went there? Huh? I was not prepared. I was prepared, but not for how quickly this was gonna happen. Okay. Then he roughly pushed himself onto me, his lips crushing into mine. Okay, Bill. I didn't have any time to process what was happening before I felt a sharp pain on my lower lip. He bit me hard. I could taste blood in my mouth. Cheering, celebrating, yeah, yippee! Bill pulled back and I ripped away from him, panting, feeling murderous. My lips stung. Blood was trickling down into my mouth and I felt violated. What in the heck had he just done? Glass houses, am I right? I was about to say something when Bill staggered back and, lo and behold, spat at my feet. We need a spit counter here for this route. His eyes were wild. I bet you loved that, didn't you? You're freaking sick. Bill, I think you've got some reflecting to do. Then he knelt and grabbed my face again. He was really close. I resisted the urge to bite him. That wouldn't do me no favors. He spoke in a low, threatening voice, almost like a growl. I ain't gonna give you an easy time of this, McCarthy. Out of all of them, every one, you're the one what's giving me trouble. The one I've most looked forward to putting down. So I'm gonna make it long and enjoy every moment. I'm gonna tame you like the dog you are. Here for it. And then I'm gonna send you where you belong. He threw me away from him without giving me a chance to answer and strode away quickly, vanishing out of the barn and into the night. Are we the one that bothered you for so long because you have a... Could it be you have a crush on McCarthy? McCoy? Are we also in your mind for the last 8 years? What in the name of all that's holy? My mind couldn't process what just happened. Wild Bill McCoy had just kissed me. Never in 1,000 years would I have thought he'd do anything like that. Even to prove something. Even to humiliate or demean me. What was really going on inside that man's head? He is so confused. It was clear as day he hated homosexuals. Anyone who saw his rap sheet would know that. But to go that far, to actually engage in something like that just to make his point, it must go deeper than pure hate. It turns into love. Was it fear? Something happened to him in the past, as a child or something, that made him act this way? Because I knew that any man who really just hated homosexuals wouldn't do that. Frustrated, humiliated, and confused, I was left alone to wait out the night. Oh, he has problems. He is repressed. We'd love to see it. Next thing I remember, I was waking up to the sunrise breaking over the farmhouse. I was busting for a pee and hungry as you'd like, and my joints were screaming. Didn't seem like anyone was coming to bring me anything or let me out for a slash, though. A slash? Gay. I diagnosed you with gay, Wild Bill McCoy. For sure gay, yeah. I wondered how long it'd be before they remembered I was out here. Bill's face from last night was still etched into my memory. I'd fallen asleep exhausted after spending hours alone trying to figure him out. I shuffled a little, trying to ease the numbness in my butt. Just as I was thinking about starting to work on my ropes again, I heard voices drifting over from the main house. Seems Bill was already up and about, along with his lady friend. Her voice was high and excited, piercing through the morning air. Nancy? And that ain't even half the money. You don't even know, Bill. This'll all be worth it. Yeah? Well, it better be. Bill's voice was deep and gruff, like he was tired. He's probably like, why the heck? What the heck? Doing the mayor weren't no easy thing for me, and now the dang law's crawling all over this place. We ain't got long to pull this off. Bill killed Dalton? Isn't that what we guessed? They crossed in front of the barn door, but didn't look in at me. I tried to act as if I was still sleeping. If I found my way out of here, having that kind of information would be dang useful. Maybe I could even go back to town and convince him I was telling the truth. Clear my name. If nothing else, it was something to blackmail Bill with. I don't think he cares. Trust me, Bill, we ain't got nothing to worry about. They get their land, we get our money, and we ride off into the sunset. The pair sat down in the center of camp, where the old fire from last night before was still smoldering. The redhead was nervous. I could see her leg twitching as she sat down. She was trying to convince Bill of something, and I was sure as heck he knew she didn't know shoot about it. Hey Bill, drop that 0 and get with the queero. Yeah, well, if it all turns out that good, I'll eat my own hat. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. But I'm willing to wait around another week, at least, to see the return on this. I'm sure by then it'll all be golden. Just you wait. She was enthusiastic, I'd give her that. I was just trying to piece together what it all meant. They'd been paid by someone, it seemed, to kill Dalton, and were waiting on the money. But why? More than that, why did Bill agree to it all? If I knew anything about him, it was that he killed for principles, not for cash. While I was trying to make sense of what I heard, Bill turned his head and noticed me looking at him. Ugh. Oh, you're awake, are you, McCarthy? He took long strides towards me, and despite myself, I instinctively flinched. Look at that. Getting scared of me already. He leaned down, his broad body casting a shadow over me. You have fun listening in on our private conversation. Tell you what, as a special treat, I'll let you in on this whole story. So as you know what'll happen to your little friends in town. We just got there. Like, we were there for like 1 day. 2 days. At this point, the redhead had appeared at the door of the barn and was leaning at the edge, looking unimpressed. Bill gestured at her without looking. This here's Nancy. She's been with me for, about 4 years now. 5. 5 years. Surprising to me that any woman would stick around you that long, McCoy. I tried to put venom in my voice, but Bill just laughed it off. She ain't just any woman. She's Nancy Dalton, the mayor's wife. Oh, 5 years? I narrowed my eyes as I took in his statement. She'd run off and left the mayor to be with Bill? Well, it was right that not just any woman would be insane enough to do that. She must have really hated her life. Or she wanted the money. Beyond that, though, why'd she come back with her new lover to kill her husband? Even for the amount of money I assumed they were getting, that was both ice cold and very risky. I observed her, but she just tossed her hair and didn't seem bothered by the statement at all. X. So far as I'm concerned, even before he kicked it. Didn't ever love him. It astounded me how cold she could be about a man she'd married. This woman was dangerous, that was for sure. Even Bill looked a little taken aback at that, though he recovered real fast. He said, "You lied on God?" Well, anyways, since Nancy's from around here, she got a tip that things weren't going so well in the town's elite. Seemed that someone wanted a change of government around here, and they were willing to pay a lot for it. You're an A-grade stalker, McCarthy, so I'm sure you know this ain't my usual sort of job. Oh! But this time, Nancy asked, and well, I couldn't never say no to her, could I now? He looked over his shoulder with a simpering smile that didn't match his eyes. I didn't believe a word of it. He had his reasons for coming here, but it sure as heck didn't have nothing to do with her. She matched it and fluttered her eyelashes. Dangerous then, but stupid if she believed anything Bill said. I felt like I was at least getting a handle on these people. Any little advantage that could help get me out of here, I'd take it. See, for us, it's a win-win situation. I get that old off my back, so I'm officially a free woman again. Our benefactors get the land they want in Golders Rock, and Bill here gets a large amount of cash in his pocket for a real simple job, so he can keep on doing what he's doing without a worry. As she spoke, she reached over and massaged Bill's back and shoulders. He didn't react to her, instead continuing to watch my face closely. Yeah, I bet you are, Bill. He's like, jealous? Sounds too good to be true. Sure you ain't gonna get double-crossed by your benefactor? Bill's head is worth a lot on its own. He could have set you up and be on his way down here right now. At that, Bill crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. You're smart, McCarthy. But not too smart. Ain't you figured out yet who's paid us to do this? I thought it over. Based on what little I knew of Golders Rock, well, I didn't really know no one but the sheriff properly. Before I could think much more on it, Nancy spoke up. It's the natives, idiot. They were on reasonable terms with Earl, but the chief wants more land, and Earl wouldn't give it to him. See, Hollis's ranch, that's Earl's brother, borders on native territory, and because he cared so much about his family, that spineless cur wouldn't hand it over. Even though Hollis never gave two shoots about him. So the chief starts thinking of other ways to circumvent the politics and comes up with the best one. Have Earl killed by an American, then when there's chaos and confusion and the young sheriff is drawn out trying to solve the case as well as control the town, sweep in and take back their land by force. Ain't nothing nobody could do about it, and we get to ride off with our pay while they fight their battles and forget all about us. Best part is, they can't betray us, cause I was the one what dealt with them. And what sheriff would believe a Native American over a lady? Far as Cartwright knows, I'm clean, and that ain't changing. Nancy laughed to herself smugly as Bill drew back and put his arm around her waist. I couldn't believe my ears. Betraying their own people for money? Killing her husband and probably countless others in the town? I knew better than any what heinous crimes Bill had committed in the past. Innocent men died at his hand. Dozens of them. But this was on a whole other level. This was a massacre. I stared hard at Bill, trying to figure him out. He was a hateful, awful man. Murderous man. That was for sure. And I fully believed he had no remorse for his actions. But I also believed that in some dark and twisted way, he had a conscience, a moral code of his own. He stared me down, his expression flat. Shocked, McCarthy? Well, don't worry too much about it. I'll probably let you live just long enough to see it unfold. Then you'll be dead before we move on, and you won't have to worry no more. How's that sound? You're insane, Bill. I used his first name this time without realizing it, voicing my thoughts before I had a chance to think them through. My voice sounded raw, choked. You've lost your goddamn mind. Bill laughed, real cruel. Well, if I have, then it don't matter anyway, because I've got nothing left to lose. He turned to Nancy with a predatory look in his eye. Come on, Nancy, let's go have some fun, shall we? He grabbed her waist aggressively, and she giggled, letting herself be pulled in. The pair turned away from me and began to walk out of the barn. Food? Water? Atmosphere? Hello? My body reminded me immediately that I couldn't let him go yet. Wait, can you at least send someone to let me out for a pee? Bill paused but didn't turn around. I guess all dogs have to be let out in the yard once in a while. I'll have someone come out when they're ready. Nancy laughed again, and Bill's hand moved from her hip to her butt as he ushered her back to the farmhouse. Once again, I was left alone. Frantically, I began to try and plan a way out of this. Somehow, some way, I needed to stop this from happening. I needed to warn someone. I didn't know why. I didn't know nobody in Golders Rock. Not really. But something about this didn't stick right in my head. That woman Nancy screamed danger and seemed a little unbalanced. Maybe she'd managed to push Bill off the edge. Whatever the reason, this was downright wrong, and nobody who called himself a man could stay by and watch it happen. I began working on the ropes again. Didn't know if they were even fraying, but I had to try. As of right now, I didn't have no better options. Soon, I heard footsteps approaching and thanked the merciful Lord that someone had seen fit to finally come out for me. One of the guys who'd captured me, the smaller, mustachioed one, came into view while holding a small plate with some fixins. Boss said you wanted a pee or something. I told him you could go in your damn pants, but it seems he's a dang sight kinder than I am. If you look up the actual Wild Bill, he's just a creepy old man with a beard. I didn't know there was an actual Wild Bill. Maybe it's a coincidence of common name. But of course it'd be an old man with a beard. He sneered as he threw the food down on the ground and went to the back of the column to untie the rope. I hoped he wouldn't notice the fraying, if there was any. Seemed I was in luck though, since he just continued taunting me, uninterested in the state of the ties. You must have some sort of in with the boss to get this kind of treatment. Normally he just shoots him dead and gets on with it. After untying me from the column, he pulled the rope like a lead. I rose and followed him obediently while trying to keep the conversation going. Never knew what I might learn. Bill's thugs weren't normally the cleverest bunch. He was also a cowboy outlaw, so... well... historical fiction be like. Taking liberties, like, was it that Fate Stay anime? That one that takes, like, historical figures and gender bends them and turns them into whatever. Trust me, this ain't nothing but revenge. I've been chasing Bill for years. He just wants a little payback before he sends me down. I could believe that. Heard your name around, Blackjack. You've been a pain in his butt a long time. He yanked on the rope hard. I weren't expecting it and toppled onto the floor. Crashed my jaw to the ground and almost bit my tongue. As I struggled up with my hands still tied together, I heard him laughing. I tried not to rise to it. If he knew I was angry, he'd be on his guard, and much less likely to make a mistake. He led me roughly out of the barn. My stomach growled, and I looked back at the food that was left on the floor. Hurry up, I ain't got all day. Reluctantly, I followed him out. How are we gonna eat that? With our hands tied up, is he gonna feed us? No, not likely. We went up the gully and out behind a broken wagon at the far edge of the farm. Then he just stood there and stared at me. For a moment, I weren't sure what he expected me to do. Get on with it then. Get on with what? I ain't got no hands. Be or don't, it's your call. I ain't waiting forever. Look, I'm gonna need you to untie my hand. He grunted. You think I'm falling for that? I gave him a look like he was the dumbest thing on earth. Which, honestly, he might have been. I ain't got no hands to undo my pants, so unless you want to reach down, undo them for me, and then aim it yourself so there's no splatter on your boots, I'm gonna need to use at least one hand here. He considered me carefully for a moment, his mouth and mustache scrunching up all suspicious. Then reluctantly, with a glance down at my fly, he started fumbling at the rope to free one of my hands. As soon as it was out, I swung my fist hard at his head. It connected with a crack, and my hand exploded in pain. He staggered back, clutching his head. Through the pain, I saw my opportunity and grabbed the revolver out of his holster. I held it on him steady as he recovered from the blow. That's it, you freaking... He suddenly realized his gun weren't in his belt no more, and his eyes went wide as he looked up at me, then straight down the barrel. Growling, he lunged at me. I weren't expecting it, but managed to sidestep just in time. Then I clobbered him on the back of the head with the butt of the gun. He went straight down, collapsed onto the ground, and didn't move. Well, that worked out alright. I put the gun away in my own holster and finally took that long-awaited pee I'd been needing. Then I planned out what to do next. He should pee on his body. If I was out of camp for too long without making a move, I'd be caught by Bill. I couldn't afford to go back for my bag, or hang everything, for the food and water I'd been so desperate for. Guess I'd have to wait until I got back to town. Even then, who knew if I'd get fixings. In any case, I had my legs, and I had a gun. That'd have to be enough. I hid the thug's body in a little ditch and headed out the gully as fast as I could. The further I was from Bill, the better. He's gonna kill us. He's gonna catch us and he's gonna kill us. It was slow going, given I hadn't eaten or drank nothing in almost a day. At one point, I stopped at a river and thought about it, but looking at the murky green just beneath the surface, decided against it. That's smart. We ain't about to be dying like we're on the Oregon Trail. Thirsty as I was, it weren't worth the risk of a water disease. I pushed on through the desert, hoping to make my way back to town quick enough that Bill couldn't catch up. Suddenly, though, I saw something up ahead that made me stop short. A person. Slim figure, no hat, a bow, a Native American. He turned to look at me calmly. It was unmistakably a Native American boy in his late teens by the looks. Catch, kill, or end up being gay cowboy friends. Who knows? Yeehaw! He regarded me with calm curiosity. I didn't know what to make of him. Was he one of the ones who'd been working with Bill? If so, he might attack me. I kept my hand on my holster just in case as I approached, but he seemed unbothered by it. Don't come no closer, American. I just need to pass through. I ain't interested in hurting you. Nor I you, at least right now. But you gotta stop where you are. Reluctantly, aware that Bill could be behind me at any moment, I stopped. He looked down at me imperiously, and I knew that despite his age, this boy obviously had power. Probably the son of one of the high-ups. Why are you here? This was tricky. If he was one of Bill's, letting him know I'd escaped probably wouldn't go down too well. He didn't seem like he'd believe I was just lost, or on my way back to town with the way I'd been moving. I'd have to bite the bullet. Every second wasted here was another Bill had to discover I'd gone. Right now, I'm escaping. From the bandits? Shoot, if he knew they were down there, he was probably on their side. I braced myself to have to draw my gun on him. They have horses, you know. You'd better move fast if you want to get back to town. He stood aside and watched me calmly. I was both incredulous and suspicious. You ain't with them? With them? They've been stealing our cattle for weeks. But they said that it was your tribe what paid them to be here. He furrowed his brow in consternation. That is highly unlikely. They're thieves. In any case, I'm going down to the camp myself soon to deal with them, so I'll find out what's going on. Careful, they're dangerous men. He acknowledged my warning with a nod. Thank you, cowboy. The name's Taza, by the way. And mine's Lee McCarthy, though I don't mind cowboy neither. He chuckled. I like this boy. He had his head on straight. After a quick handshake, I nodded to him and went on my way, making pace to cover for the lost time. What I didn't know then, while I was having my conversation with Taza, was that Bill had finished up real quick with Nancy. He'd headed out to the barn only to find me gone, food untouched. Then he'd searched and found his man in the ditch, disarmed and unconscious. He yelled in fury, grabbed a horse, and gone immediately, following the river towards town at a gallop. Not half an hour after my conversation with Taza, he thundered past. He's gonna cut off our hands. I didn't know then that just as I passed by the town's outskirts and collapsed by the side of Dead Man's Rest, sighing in relief. Bill pulled up seconds later, cursing as he saw me vanish into the town center. I had no idea how close I'd come to my life ending then and there. Luckily though, since I'd known nothing about it, my mind was clear and focused as I headed right to the sheriff's station. Ignorance is bliss. I'd have to tell him, at least, about the conspiracy. If he didn't believe me, well, that was on him. My conscience would be clear. And even if he threw me in jail for skipping town, at least I'd be fed and watered. Free housing, free food, free water. I walked in the door and instantly heard the sheriff's loud, commanding voice. He marched over to me, nostrils flaring and eyebrows furrowed, brandishing his hair cuffs. Oh, he's ready for me. McCarthy! What in the heck do you think you're doing back here after I told you weren't to leave town? I'm placing you under arrest on suspicion of murder. I held my hands up in surrender. Look, Sheriff, I apologize for sneaking out when I weren't supposed to. But you got the wrong man here. The person you're looking for is Bill McCoy. I went to get him and get out of town, I'll admit that. But it went wrong. I was captured and I found out it was down to him. That's why I came back to town. I escaped and I thought you should know who really done it. Cartwright snorted. Blame it on the bandit, eh? Thought you were more inventive than that, McCarthy. I don't believe a word that comes out of your mouth no more. I'll dang well keep you in this cell until something proves otherwise. Really threw me in there. He shoved me backwards into one of the cells in the station. Once I was inside the cell, the sheriff locked the door firmly and gave me a withering look. You'd have done better to stay well away from Golders Rock. 'Cause now you ain't going nowhere till I figure out what the heck's going on. He strode back into his office and slammed the door shut, leaving me alone in the station. Well, that could have gone better. But at least in here, I was safe from Bill, and I knew I'd be getting my next meal. But when? All in all, it could have gone a lot worse, too. I lay down on the bedroll and tried to get some rest. Plead insanity. Weren't long later before I was woken up by the harsh sound of boots outside my cell. I sat up and saw the sheriff walking past, accompanied by someone. I didn't get a good enough view to see who. They walked into his office, and with a quick glance around behind him, Cartwright closed the door. I didn't think they'd notice I was awake. Who could he be talking to? Did it have anything to do with Dalton or Bill? I moved as close as I could to the door and strained to hear. Couldn't catch nothing though, just the faint rumbling of the sheriff's voice. Collapsing, I stared at the ceiling with a sigh. I was still starving. How long would it be till I was brought food and water? My stomach growled uncomfortably. Just then, the door opened again and I sat up, hoping to catch a glimpse of who the sheriff had been talking to. When I saw who it was, I wish I hadn't. A shock of red hair, a timid, innocent smile, and those high leather boots. Nancy had come to pay Cartwright a visit. And judging by the look they both shot at me as she made to exit the station, it dang well weren't good news. Well, shoot. Bill had a trump card. After she was gone, the sheriff rounded on me, his voice high and accusatory. Didn't have nothing to do with it, eh? What a load of coming out of your mouth, McCarthy. That woman there is Dalton's wife, and she told me all about your little scheme. Says she was in town the night of the murder, and she saw you near Dalton's residence. Says she fears for her own life next. She reckons you're a scapegoat set up by someone who's trying to get at Dalton's. At the Daltons. The sheriff slammed his hands on the cell bars angrily. Who's your benefactor? Tell me who paid you to kill them. I whistled long and low. Bill really had played this very well. I didn't see that there'd be any way out for me now. I told you the truth before, Sheriff. Bill's behind it, and what's more, Nancy's working with him. Nancy, now is it? Where'd you learn that name? Did your employer tell it to you? I ain't got no employer. I'm telling you, Cartwright. If you can't see I'm being honest, then that's your business. But I ain't got nothing more to say to you. Other than Bill's guilty, and that's that. Period. Just then, my stomach gave another loud, insistent growl. We both paused. He is shocked. Oh, yeah, and when's dinner? Cartwright glared at me and stormed away. I'll have you talk yet, McCarthy. I'll get you your dang food, but it'll be the last meal you ever had unless you cooperate with me. Soon as this is done, I'm making a date in the morning between you and the hangman. I gulped as he vanished into a small room at the back of the station. First thing in the morning didn't give me a lot of time. And just as Nancy called it, the sheriff believed her over me. So there weren't no way the truth was gonna fly. Yeah, we kinda don't have any credibility. I fell back onto the bedroll again and closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose in frustration. There had to be something I hadn't thought of. Some way out. Something. I barely noticed as Cartwright laid a tray down and stormed back into his office. Hungry and thirsty as I was, my whole body was coiling into knots at the thought of the coming dawn. What the heck was I gonna do? Yikes! Also, Bill comes and he's like, only I get to kill McCarthy. So he inadvertently saves us, just so he could be the one to kill us. But we know he's not going to kill us because he loves us? Question mark? The afternoon extended into the night, and it felt like it stretched on forever. I ate what he left me, curled up on the bedroll, trying to figure a way out of this situation. Ain't no chance I was picking the lock or bending the bars. This jail was solid. How could I have let Bill trap me like this? I should have seen it coming. Should have just run away. Left for the next town over, or even just jumped on the nearest dang train. I should have minded your own business. Instead, I had to come back here and try to do the right thing. I was danged if I ever was gonna do that again. Oh, no. If I even lived past the morning. A sound broke me out of my musings. It was the middle of the night. The sheriff had long since gone home. Who would be coming in here at this hour? Of course, I knew before I even saw his smug, sneering face. Bill. Oh, Bill. Oh, Bill. Fancy seeing you here, McCarthy. His voice whispered out of the shadows as he stepped forward into a ray of moonlight. Dramatic? He looked more dangerous than I'd ever seen him. For a split second, I was glad of the bars between us. Thought you'd get away, did you? Ain't nobody who gets away from me. He stepped closer, threatening. I could see the whites of his eyes. What are you gonna do here? What are you doing here, Bill? Come to taunt me in my final hours? Is that it? You're for the hangman, then? Nancy did her job well. I'll give her that at least. How does it feel, Lee? Hearing my first name slip between his lips gave me a shiver, and it weren't in a good way. I felt like a rabbit cornered by a hungry wolf. Briefly, I recalled his angry, violent kiss and grit my teeth. How does what feel? Being an outlaw. We're one and the same now, you and me, in the eyes of the law. We ain't the same, Bill. You're a wanted man in every state, a known killer. Dozens of men saw you shoot every dang one of your victims. And I'm being held for something they got no substantial proof on, so if I walk out of this town, I'm a free man. I can go anywhere. You've got nowhere left to run. Bill was right up against the bars now, his eyes glimmering in the moonlight. I almost wanted to back away, but I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. My hands were balled up into shaking white fists. His tone was almost mocking in his response. Right now, right here, on this soil, you and I are just the same, Blackjack. I decided I was gonna jibe him right back. We got nothing to lose. Save. Interesting how you compare us, Bill, given you hate my guts. Sure you want to find out how similar we really are, Bill? Oh, let's go there. Bill faltered for the barest hint of a moment. Then he recovered himself as fast as I could blink and snarled like an animal. I ain't nothing like you where it matters, McCarthy. Just wanted you to know what it was like to be put in my place for once. Wrongly accused and rotting away. Called a criminal, though you know you did right. I couldn't quite believe Bill had this view of himself. Was that what he really honestly thought deep down? That he was some kind of martyr? If so, he was further gone into insanity than even I'd believed. That really what you think, Bill? When you looked those men in the eye as you killed them, you thought you was doing right? I know I was. World needs more men like me, so it'll be rid of men like you. Freaks! This time, when he said it, it almost felt like his voice trembled a bit. I can speak, I can read. He was unhinged. I'm doing the work of God. You say that, Bill, but have you ever met God? If he's up there, busy running heaven and all, I doubt he's taking his time talking to any of us down here and telling us what to do. I moved a little closer to the bars. Bill appeared to be listening to me, though he looked like he might swing a punch at any second. I despised him from the depths of my soul, but nobody should ever pass up the chance to teach someone who needs it right from wrong. We preach it now, okay? Has he ever told you you're doing right? They say we're all his children, after all. And the commandments, ain't one of them don't kill people? It's spelled out right there. I think this ain't about God at all. It's about you. Psycho therapy session, let's go. Oh! Without warning, Bill slammed his hands angrily up against the bars. They rattled loudly, and I shrank back a little on instinct. I'd gone too far. Don't you forget, McCarthy. Right now, I'm the only man what stands between you and the gallows. I could let you out of here right now, or I could walk away. Don't play with fire. Honestly, I hadn't even thought of the notion that Bill might release me. I'd already committed to having to steal a gun and shoot my way out come dawn. How are we gonna steal a gun? Bill backed away from the bars, rubbing the palms of his hands, and looked over his shoulder out the window. Light was beginning to gather. I'm gonna let you out, Blackjack. I put you in here to teach you a lesson, that you ain't to run from me. If you learned it good and well, then you follow me out and you don't try to leave. If you do anything untoward, I'll call the sheriff and see us both hung, rather than let you get away again. The intensity in his stare was staggering. I really believed him. He'd rather die himself than see me go free. Part of me wanted to reject his deal flat out, but I wanted a sure chance of making it out of this town alive, so I gulped and nodded. I hated this, but between Bill and death, I'd take Bill, at least for now. If I survived tonight, I had a chance of working my way out of this alive. And for all that Bill was the worst man I'd ever had the misfortune to know, something about him seemed different this time. I'll admit, I had some kind of morbid interest in finding out what it was. It begins. Bill grinned like a coyote and pried open the cell from the outside. As the door swung open, I felt a growing sense of dread. Breaking out of jail was a real offense. The minute I stepped out of here, I'd be a criminal for real. But heck, the sheriff hadn't let me know other choices. The sun was on its way up, and I had no time to find another manner of working this out. Reluctantly, I followed Bill, who'd grabbed me roughly and locked heavy handcuffs on me before I could blink. Well, shoot. That was gonna be a lot harder to break out than some old ropes. Still, I was alive, and I was gonna remain that way, so I take what I could get. Quickly, we hurried out of the jail and across town before anyone else woke up. It was surreal knowing I was going against the law. But I had no other choice, and I knew that. I hoped this would be the last I'd ever see of Golders Rock. Dang town had brought me nothing but trouble. We made it out and into the desert, and soon we'd gone far enough that even the battered old train station was out of sight. I reckon this should be far enough. Far enough? He's gonna shoot me dead, bro. Bill stopped and pulled his gun out, and I was suddenly sick with fear. Was he gonna shoot me after making me an outlaw? Had this all been some morbid little scheme? I wouldn't put it past the man, but I'd hope, foolishly I guess, that he'd have more honor than that. We went through this. He's gone through this with you, McCarthy. Though I suppose when it came down to it, Bill was only ever guided by his flawed morals, nothing more. And they were telling him I should be a dead man. I think it's about time you paid me back before we go any further. Paid you back? What in the heck are you talking about, Bill? He sneered and cocked the gun. We're getting you out of jail. A little thank you present is in order before we go back to camp, I think. What? Before I could reply, Bill suddenly grabbed my shoulders and pushed me down to my knees. I struggled, but with my hands cuffed, I couldn't stop him. He was a strong man. He grunted as he held me there, and with his other hand, he started undoing his pants. Oh no. No, 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 no. This was... I wasn't... There was no way in heck I'd ever... And then his pants were down, and there it was, hanging about 3 inches from my face. I turned my eyes away, revolted. Go on then. You're gonna provide me a service since I so kindly let you out of jail. And you're gonna freaking well enjoy it, because this is the kind of thing you abominable freaks live for, isn't it? So do it, and no funny business, or I'll kill you. Bill, you could've just asked, like... I stared up at Bill with defiance. The hatred I felt for him was swelling in my chest. You don't want to continue this, but... You're freaking nuts if you think I'm going anywhere near that. Get yourself off if you're so desperate. Bill tightened his grip on my shoulder and moved the gun so it was pointed directly into my temple. The cold metal pressed painfully hard against my skin. But there was no way, come hell or high water, that I was going to be touching Bill in any such manner. I'd rather be dead. So, in McCarthy's tier list, it's if it's between dead and just hanging out with Bill, it's Bill. But if it's between Bill, like touching Bill, and dead, he'd rather be dead. So, yeah. I continued to stare up at him defiantly. Shoot me then, if you're gonna. Because let me be clear, Bill McCoy, I only pleasure a man when I want to. Say it! And I don't want nothing to do with your cock. Now or ever. You better dang well kill me, or we're gonna be here a real long time. Bill pressed the gun into my temple even harder. I was afraid of dying, that was for sure, and sweat ran down my neck in rivers. But there was no way I was ever gonna submit to Bill. That was all this was, some kind of BS power play, trying to prove something. To himself or me, I didn't know. Whatever it was though, it was disgusting and degrading, and I weren't having no part of it. I'd be better off joining Jimmy and knowing I'd done right by me. His eyes turned sinister, a black anger swirling inside him. He's literally like, why won't my crush like me? He doesn't know. He doesn't understand. I knew how bad he wanted to pull that trigger. But then he drew it back and pushed me roughly onto the ground. Fine. With nothing but that curt word, he turned away and started to pull his pants back up. A little embarrassing for him. What the dang heck had just happened? Was he disappointed? Bill, that's not how you court someone, sweetie. I guess he wanted to humiliate me, but such a failed attempt should have ended with a bullet. Why was he continuing to keep me alive after all this time when he knew I weren't gonna ever let him win? Perhaps, even after this, he thought he could tame me. Or maybe there was something else going on under the surface with Bill that I couldn't even begin to fathom. He finished with his pants and turned back to me with a pulsing, angry aura. Get the heck up. We're going back to camp. Embarrassing for him, I'm not gonna lie. As terse as his words were, there was something behind him that there'd never been before when he spoke to me. He's your everything. Respect. And though I never needed nor wanted any kind of recognition or affirmation from the man in front of me, I was proud. Clearly, he had a lot going on in his head, and whatever way this played out in the end, maybe I'd made a difference. Maybe if he came to see us as more than animals, and if I didn't finish the job, then maybe I'd be the last. Couldn't say for sure, of course. But it was something to cling on to as he led me, gun in my back, towards the camp. I found myself half hoping the Native American boy would come out of nowhere and help. As we got closer and closer, though, those hopes died off. Seemed he was smart, and he'd heeded my warning to stay well away. Either that, or he'd gone back to his tribe to find out about the murder. But he wasn't around to save me as Bill marched me back into the farm. Oh, Bill. There weren't no guards around, which surprised me. Nancy was waiting like a faithful puppy at the door of the farmhouse and ran out with obvious relief when Bill reappeared. His mood seemed to only blacken when he saw her, though. Bill, you're back! I was getting worried about you. It's almost dawn. Thought maybe I'd have to go into town again and figure out some way of getting you out. Bill didn't make no effort to respond, only nodding at her as she approached us while continuing to manhandle me back to the barn. Nancy came right up to us and stopped Bill in his tracks, frowning a little. Hey, you can't even spare me a greeting? I've been up worried all night. Well, I didn't ask you to be, did I now? Just go in the house and wait in bed, Nancy. I'll be there in a minute. He pushed her aside with a jerk of the gun in my back. I jolted forward. Oh, and with a jerk of the gun in my back, I jolted forward. I caught a glimpse of her disappointed look as we passed. Tee-hee! Ha! Tee-hee! Inside the barn, Bill pushed me into the middle and grabbed the same rope that had tied me before. Still cuffed, I couldn't do nothing but watch as he tied me up again. This time, round the waist, with my hands in front. No way I was getting out of this one anytime soon. I didn't say nothing about Nancy, mainly because Bill seemed to be in a bad mood after earlier. In any case, I didn't want to make it worse. But it seemed to me she was much keener on him than he was on her. Made sense, really. Bill only ever kept people around if they were useful to him. Never known him to honestly care about anyone other than himself. He finished tying the rope and glared down at me. You ain't going nowhere this time. And I ain't done with you yet. With a final narrowed stare, Bill vanished out of the barn. I wiggled to sit more comfortably and sighed. How had I managed to get back here again? From the first moment I'd let those idiots catch me, it'd gone from bad to worse. Now I was a jailbird, a real criminal, as well as being wanted for a murder I didn't commit. Had I made the right choice, coming with Bill? I mean, we'd be dead. For sure by now I'd be at the gallows, but I'd have died an honest man. I'd have gone to meet Jimmy and known I didn't do nothing wrong. Now, well, I was wanted by the law and tied up at the behest of a deeply troubled and unpredictable criminal who hated my guts, and I his. Not to mention, twice now, he's made rough, angry, inappropriate sexual advances, which I still couldn't figure out. Sighing, I propped my head back against the column. Time would tell if I'd made the right choice. At least for now, I was alive. I managed to get some fitful sleep throughout the early morning. It was just as uncomfortable in there as it'd been the first time. I was woken around noon from my doze, though, by Nancy storming into the barn like a woman possessed. You, McCarthy! Yes, ma'am. That's me. She marched right up to me and slapped me hard across the face. The force pushed my head to the side. My cheek stung, and I couldn't even lift my hand to nurse it. I glared at her angrily. What the heck was that for? You freaking creep, you're disgusting, is catching. What the, what the? Bill spent too much time around you or something, I don't know. But you've infected him with something, because last night he couldn't get it up. And it's all your fault. What did you do to him? My cheek was burning and I was still groggy, so it was difficult to process what she was screaming about. But one thing stuck out. Bill couldn't get it up. I wondered if it had anything to do with our interaction earlier in the night. A blow to his confidence, maybe? Or was it something even deeper? Come on, McCarthy, you know. You know. You keep questioning it, you know. Nancy was still fuming, standing over me, demanding an answer. Well, darling, shame you'll never know what I can do to a man. Ooh, as if I'd ever touch him. He's all yours. Girl, he's all yours. That's what this McCarthy's saying. Then why have you been infecting him with your... Look, darling, I'm gonna tell it to you straight. What I've got ain't something you can catch. It's something you either are or you ain't. If Bill's with you, then he ain't. And you got nothing to worry about. They didn't understand bisexuality back then. It's okay. It's okay. She looked confused for a minute, and then the anger came back. You just stay away from him. He's acting strange, and I don't like it. Then she whirled around and stalked out. We're in the middle of some drama right now. Ooh, boy is right. I let out a low breath. That was one way to wake up. I caught sight of Bill going past the barn, and I half expected him to come in and accuse me of the same. Instead, though, he gave me an odd look and just walked on by. More and more, I was feeling like some kind of third wheel on a wagon. Whatever their relationship was or wasn't, I didn't want nothing to do with it. We got dragged along. Honestly, right now, I just wanted out of here. I'd come here with the intention of killing Bill, but after seeing him the way he was, I didn't even know if I wanted that no more. He was still the odious man I've known from afar, but more than that, he was on the verge of some kind of breakdown. I didn't want to know any more about him than I already did, but that, at least, I could tell. Strangely, I hadn't thought of Jimmy much in the last few days. Normally, he'd occupy my every waking hour, but now it felt like his memory was much further away. It was freeing in a way. The guilt I'd carried with me for so long was slowly starting to be lifted. Spending this time around Bill, I'd come to realize there wasn't nothing I could have done. And Bill's issues stemmed far further than just hate. I knew Jimmy had been the first man he ever killed. The first one? No wonder why. Oh my god. No wonder why McCarthy's been chasing him forever. Sheesh. And somehow I'd felt responsible every time I'd heard of another death. Oh my god, wait. Pause. Does that mean, did somehow Bill like McCarthy since all the way back then? And he got jealous because McCarthy and Jimmy were a thing, so he killed Jimmy, and then he went on this, like, killing crusade just so to get McCarthy's attention or something like that. To keep him like, I should have got him sooner. I should have prevented it. Wait, did I read that last sentence? That last log? Further than just hate? Yeah. I felt responsible every time I'd heard of another death. He doesn't know how to communicate, so he just wants to be in McCarthy's brain somehow, and he can't get us out of his brain, so All that had tainted my pursuit, made it personal. In the end, had I been doing all of this for Jimmy, or was it to relieve myself of my own guilt? The more I confronted the truth of my actions, the more I realized I was further away from Jimmy than I'd ever been. Further away from the life we'd wanted for ourselves. You're crying. No! It was time for a change. I get out of this dang corner of the world, wash my hands of everything, and start again. That's what Jimmy would have wanted. Jimmy! And the moment I thought of it, I knew it was true. No more wasted time. With that in mind, I set to work. Scrabbling about on the floor with my boot, I found a nail lying a little ways away. After some careful shuffling, I managed to roll it over to me. Wait, let me backtrack for a sec. Oops. Oh my god, I hit the wrong window. Because I was thinking about my theory, so I was not fully paying attention to what the heck I was reading. Okay. Let me drink some water while I'm rereading this. Okay. Okay, yeah. This is not what Jimmy would have wanted. Yes. After some careful shuffling, I managed to roll it over to me. With any luck, this would be my ticket out of here. The trusty, rusty nail. By nightfall, though, it had become clear the nail wasn't of any use. It was too thick to break the lock on the cuffs and not sharp enough to make any headway on the rope. My stomach growled in hunger. Was anyone gonna bring me food? I didn't see no other people in the camp except Bill and Nancy either. Excuse me. Things definitely felt different around here since my escape. A sudden noise startled me, and I hid the nail quick before whoever came in saw it. The looming figure of Bill cast a shadow over the entrance as he stepped in. I brought you some food. He sounded listless, bored. That weren't like Bill. That lot of good that'll do when I'm all tied up. Can it, McCarthy? You've still got hands. He placed it right in front of me. I expected him to leave, but instead, he just stood there, watching me. Shrugging, I dug in. I hadn't had nearly enough to eat the last couple days, and I was famished. Heard you got Nancy all riled up earlier. I snorted. She got herself riled up, that's right. Though, I'll admit I helped a little. Seems only fair after she condemned me to the gallows, don't you think? This time, it was Bill who snorted. She say anything strange to you? I knew immediately what he was talking about, but I sure as heck wasn't gonna admit I knew. Bill was unpredictable and violent. He seemed calm at the moment, but if I told him she'd spilled his secret, I wasn't sure he'd remain so accommodating. So I arranged my face into nonchalance and kept my mouth shut. Strange? Not really. Nothing I ain't heard my whole life anyways. Bill nodded and went quiet for a while. Something seemed to be on his mind, but he wasn't going to tell me. And I didn't want him to. He seemed dangerously human at the moment, and starting to believe Bill could be anything but a monster was a risky road. When I finished my fixings, he stood. You want to pee? His thoughtfulness was surprising. Sure. Better go now, I'll be busted in the morning. I half expected him to laugh and tell me to pee in my pants or some such. Instead, he just quietly undid my ties and led me by the shoulder out of the barn. The meme where they're like, no, I won't let you hold it while I'm peeing. If anyone knows what I'm talking about. This was real unnerving to say the least. I was much more at ease with Bill when he was screaming vitriol in my face. I decided to break the silence with something that had been bothering me. Say, where are all your men? Send them away. They're all incompetent anyways, letting you get away like that. Don't need to surround myself with idiots. I'll pick up some more next town over, once Nancy and I get that dang gold. Right. There didn't seem to be much more to say, so I followed in silence as Bill led me behind the broken wagon at the edge of the farm. He was acting real different. Apathetic. Like all the fire had drained out of him. I didn't like it one bit. I hated Bill, but it was easy to hate someone who was all fired up and ready to kill you. When he was quiet and moody like this, closer to being a human, it was much harder to look in the eyes with that same venom. Even though I knew what he'd done, what heinous crimes he'd committed, well, maybe I was going soft. But it was real hard to see him now, and know I'd spent 8 years wanting nothing more than a bullet between his eyes. We stopped short at the edge of the farm. I struggled to undo my pants with my cuffed hands. Can I get these off for a sec? What do you think I am? Stupid? Well, no, but it couldn't hurt to try it. And I can't undo my pants. For F's sake, Blackjack, come here. My eyebrows flew up as Bill grabbed me and deftly undid the belt and buttons, pulling my clothes down without a word. I felt real dang awkward standing there with my bird out in front of Bill. We know what bird means, but let's click on this. Bird, another term for the penis. Even worse, that I couldn't turn away to a tree and aim proper. A second. Oh! Oh my god, he's holding him. He's letting him. Oh. Oh, the memes. Don't let your memes be dreams. A second later, though, it seemed that'd no longer be a problem, as I felt something warm touch me. I jolted when I realized Bill was holding it, then froze, uncomfortable and not really processing what was happening. You weren't hurting me or being particularly rough, but having my greatest enemy touching me down there was much more than I could handle. His eyes were fixated on his hand and my cock, with a strange kind of gleam in them. Oh, he's burning his view into his mind. I thought maybe he wasn't entirely aware of what he was doing. It was profoundly disturbing, though, especially with Bill in this odd, vacant state, and I didn't know what to do to snap him out of it. Simming over this. Either what the F are you doing or ... Bill, we're gonna go with what the F are you doing? He choked up in surprise, and his eyes narrowed as they met mine. Oh, he knew what he was doing alright. And somehow, I felt like I just stepped on a hornet's nest. He's gonna make me pee my pants. I'm doing you a goddamn favor. Now get on with it. Something about his tone of voice frustrated me. If you think I can pee right now, then you're out of your dang mind. You're holding my goddamn... So, it ain't like it's something new for you. Anyway, in a second, I won't be, and you'll pee all over your boots. So, freaking do it! I can't. I can't. Have it your way, then. You ain't coming back out here till tomorrow. Alright, wait. Bill paused as he was just about to remove his hand. I'm doing it, alright? I just need a second. Despite myself, despite everything, this weird effed up situation and who I was with, My body was starting to react to him touching me. Excuse me? You're just trying to take a pee. You're just trying to take a little whiz. McCarthy. Little backed up, buddy. It's been far too long since I'd gone Peruvian. If Bill noticed, I'd be a dead man. I was sure of it. Or, at the very least, a eunuch. So I closed my eyes and put all my energy into thinking about how much I needed to pee. You're so comfortable about Lee. That's your own hand right there, and you're peeing same as you always have. This is getting real fetishy. Yeah, I'm a little surprised, but not in a negative way. Come now. Come on now. You can do it. I felt a wave of relief on 2 levels as the stream finally started up. When it was over, Bill tucked it back in without a word and helped me do up my pants. That had been completely surreal. I almost doubted it even happened. But the lingering warmth of his hand was there, even as we walked in silence back to the camp. How was he holding it? Jesus! You don't need to put... You can minimize the surface area, the contact area. What in the name of all that was effed up was that about? Bill, outspoken man of God, known killer of homosexuals, had over the course of the last 2 days, 1. Kissed me. Check. 2. Demanded. Check. And 3. Held mine with his bare hand while I peed. Check. All at his own behest, and at all instances with myself unwilling and mostly terrified. Ooh. If it were a stranger, if it wasn't Wild Bill McCoy, I'd have immediately thought he was sweet on me. In fact, I would have thought that almost from the beginning with the way he'd acted. But this weren't no stranger, and combined with Nancy, what she told me, tying me up and keeping me prisoner, and the history we had, I couldn't help but believe that this was all some kind of weird delusion. Some trick to try and tame me like he'd said he would. I wasn't gonna give in to him. No matter what he tried to do, I could remember who I was and what Bill had done. I'd find a way to get the heck out of here, and I never look back. Never think about Wild Bill McCoy again. I allowed him to lead me back into the barn without complaint. He carefully tied me back up. Say, McCarthy, you breathe a word of what happened tonight to anyone, and I'll split your guts open. Got that? He didn't seem like he was kidding. The listless look in his eyes had been replaced with a dark anger. Maybe he'd finally realized just what had occurred out there. Needless to say, though, I was gonna show him that he hadn't cowed me. Who am I gonna tell, Bill? You're keeping me here in this rotten old barn, out of reach of civilization. He hesitated, and the answer came to me all of a sudden. Nancy? Nancy? You're worried she's gonna come and speak to me again? Suddenly, Bill's hand was at my throat. He looked at it like an animal, his teeth bared, snarling. It wasn't enough to choke me, but he was throttling my windpipe painfully. You ain't the one in charge here, McCarthy. I am. And you'll effing well listen when I tell you not to say a word. Am I clear? Going red in the face from a lack of air and just can't get his hand off my throat, I nodded. He let me go, and I gasped for breath. As he turned to walk away, though, I gulped together enough breath to say one last parting shot. Bill. He stopped, but didn't turn around. Just remember that you're right. You're the one in charge. We're dropping some therapy bombs on him as he's leaving. And all that's what's happened over the last few days. That's been on you too. Bill started walking again, vanishing into the night outside. I had no idea what the heck kind of stuff he was trying to sort out in his head, but he was clearly unstable. And it probably wouldn't be long before something inside him gave way. I just had to hope I wouldn't be around to see it happen. With that thought in mind, I located my trusty nail and set back to work. Your trusty nail? The one that you gave up on? Over the next couple of days, things stagnated around the camp. I didn't get no more interesting visits from Nancy or Bill. One of them would bring me food and let me out to pee every now and again, thankfully with no repeats of what happened before. So did we just pee on her boots? Bill seemed to have gotten bored of taunting me because, other than my basic necessities, I saw no one. I wasn't sure what I was still doing there. Did they have a plan for me? Did they even have a plan for themselves? Nancy seemed to be irritable all the time, stopping about the farm and going out often on errands. And Bill, he'd returned to that same introverted, lethargic state he'd been in the other night. I doubted either of them would even notice if I escaped this time. In fact, Nancy would probably be overjoyed. Every time she caught my eye, I could feel the hatred coming off her. She definitely still blamed me for whatever was going on with Bill. I didn't have time to waste persuading Crazy that the sky was blue, so I ignored her and got on with my only task, getting out. Let me out. One night, after days of constant poking, prodding, and sawing, the nail finally made a hole big enough in the rope. I pulled forward with all my strength and snapped the rope clean away. I was free. I'd done it. Looking around the barn, I found some old tools and smashed the cuffs, deforming them just enough to painfully squeeze my hands free. Good thing they were old and rusted to heck. In a flash, I'd grabbed my bag from where it lain forgotten for so long at the back of the barn, adjusted my hat, and, with a quick look around, darted out of the barn. This was it. It had to be. It was the dead of night, but a fire was going in the pit. I crept out, keeping to the shadows, and made a dash for the gully, intending to work my way up towards the ridge. Just before I reached the perimeter, though, I heard a click. Ugh. My heart sank like a stone in a river. I knew that sound. I raised my hands up in surrender and turned, expecting to see Bill's angry face ready to march me back to the barn. Instead, though, I was faced with a shaking, crying Nancy. She looked so much smaller than usual, and for a moment, I was tempted to go and comfort her. Not Boom! Then I remembered who she was, and just in time, too. The gun she held in both of her trembling hands raised up to point directly at my face. You freaking evil SOB! You ruined everything! It's all your fault! Whoa, come on now, Nancy. Put down the gun. Don't you freaking speak to me! Her arms wobbled wildly, and the gun teetered from side to side as tears streaked down her cheeks. She looked like she was on the verge of collapsing. You freaking ruined him! You spoiled everything! He was going to marry me. We were... And now he says he won't. And it's all since you arrived! She was screaming loudly, and I knew she would have woken Bill up already. It was only a matter of time before he came out here. I didn't have long to defuse the situation. Look, Nancy, please just put the gun down. I'm leaving. Look, I'm going. Without me here, it'll all be fine again. No! It'll never be fine. It'll never be the way it was. You don't know what you've done to him. You don't even freaking know. Her sobs consumed the end of her sentence, and for a second, the gun wobbled. I tried to dart forward and grab it from her, but she saw my movement and brought it up again before I could reach it. Why couldn't you let us be happy? Her eyes were wide and bloodshot, fresh tears rolling down her face. She genuinely believed that whatever arguments her and Bill had been having were due to me. That, coupled with the other facts I'd seen of Bill in the last week, led me to finally understand what was going on. But I didn't dare voice that to Nancy. She was insane and would definitely shoot me without a thought. Nancy, I'm sure Bill is just tired. He's off. He's bored of this place. When you get your gold, when you move out to someplace else, you'll be happy again. I'll be gone. You'll have Bill back all to yourself. I'll have Bill back. We'll be happy. I nodded persuasively, desperately trying not to look over her shoulder to see if the man in question had appeared. But you gotta let me go right now. No. Bill said I can't. I can't. Said no matter what, make sure you didn't leave. Suddenly, the broken quality in her voice vanished, replaced once more with a violent trembling anger as she recalled the object of her misery. It's all about you. Everything. He doesn't need me. He doesn't want me. Well, if you're gone, then he won't have anyone else to think about. Yes, right, so let me go. She shook her head, a cruel smile working its way out from under her tears. If you're alive, he'll always think about you. If you're alive, we can never be happy. No, that ain't... It's the only way, dang it. You have to die. The fury in her eyes left me without a doubt that she was going to pull the trigger. Desperately, my eyes flicked from side to side, trying to find a way out. I had no gun of my own. That had been taken from me when I was in jail. No way out, no way to defend myself. I braced myself with a shot, ready to dodge. There was a gunshot, and I dove, expecting pain as I rolled on the ground. But nothing happened. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Slowly, I opened my eyes and examined myself, but there were no bullet wounds. I stood up and dusted myself off, looking around for Nancy. When my eyes located her, I saw a pool of deep red collecting under her broken, still form. Who? The only possible answer came to me as my gaze moved upwards and met his. He was standing, eyes wide and uncertain, gun still in his hand, as if he weren't quite sure what he'd just done. Frozen to the spot, almost in a state of shock. I was sure I could run now, and there was no way he'd be able to catch me. But something pulled me back. No. McCarthy, follow your brain. Get out of there. Get out of there. Something about this lost soul in front of me tugged at my heart, and instead I slowly paced towards him. McCarthy! He was a coward and a killer, and he'd done countless terrible things in his lifetime. But somewhere deep down, his humanity was still there. Was it? His recent actions showed he was struggling to find it. I stopped right in front of him. You okay there? What was that? Save. Kiss him. Do it. I'm gonna go with what was that? I didn't know what else to say. All of a sudden, at the sound of my voice, he turned lucid again, and rage filled his eyes as they connected with mine. Lee McCarthy. I freaking hate you. He was breathing hard, and the venom with which he spat my name surprised me. Oh! Then before I could react, he grabbed me by the neck and pushed me up against a broken, crumbling wall, while Nancy's dead body is just laying there. I struggled, but he was so much stronger than me, and especially with no firearm, I was helpless. He pushed his body into me, trapping me against the wall and forced his mouth onto mine and bruising it. His kiss was rough and raw, full of a deep emotion that was bursting for release. This time, as much as I loathed the thought of what was happening, I didn't resist. This time, I knew what he needed. McCarthy's like, this is what we're doing for your therapy session. I let him pour all his raw, explosive energy into every fiber of the kiss, his tongue forcing mine aside and claiming dominance. He drew back, the pressure lifting, and I saw a deep, burning pain in his dark eyes. His hand wasn't nearly as tight on my neck as it had been. He was holding me in place, mainly with his body. Ugh. He exhaled, then spat on the floor. Give it up, another one for the spit counter. Who's keeping track? I freaking hate you. I hate you. I hate you. The words lacked passion, lacked forcefulness, lacked truth. Ah! His mouth found mine again, and the torrent of overflowing energy returned. I responded, allowing him to do what he needed, to release all that pent-up frustration. I remember when it first occurred to me what the feelings inside me meant. I reacted with anger and denial as well. Of course, Jimmy had helped mold me into the man I'd become. Maybe this was what Bill needed, to release all that rage, all that rolling emotion into a full-blown kiss. Finally, he pulled back, panting, and looked me in the eye. His energy spent, his anger drained away, he seemed much smaller somehow. I met his gaze without flinching. This time, I was in control. Bill knew it too. He dropped his hand away from my neck and let me stand, his jaw clenching and his eyes closing as he turned away. What's happening to me? His whole body shook as he dropped to the ground, crouching in the dust as the gun hit the floor, his head falling into his open palms. I watched him, crying like a baby, and he seemed so far removed from the wild Bill I'd known and hated, the one I chased for so long. I knew it was the same man, but somehow it wasn't, either. I should have taken the opportunity and run away, never looking back. It would have been the smart thing to do. Deep down, though, I knew I couldn't leave him like this. I was probably one of the few men that had a chance to fix this, to show Bill that he could still turn his life around. Man, McCarthy's such a good guy. In every route, he just wants to give people a second chance. Sure, he'd spent his whole life doing evil, but he had a lot of years left, and he could spend the rest of them on doing it, doing good if he chose to. If there was a glimmer of a chance I could persuade him to make that choice, I wasn't gonna pass it up. That ain't the kind of man I am. I crouched down beside him and let him collapse into me. His whole body was racked with sobs now, uncontrollably. What the heck is happening to me? I think you know, Bill. That's pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie. NGL, TBH, that sucks. His bloodshot eyes turned to look up at me. I'm a freaking monster, Lee. Done such terrible things. I held him and didn't say anything as he continued to break down. I'm a hypocrite and a blasphemer, and I'll go to hell. Are you not scared of God, Lee? Nah, I've never been a God-fearing man. Bill was incredulous. How? He barely managed to croak the word out. You know you're going to hell for the sins you've committed. Aren't you terrified to die? I shrugged and answered as honestly as I could. The way I see it, Bill, we're all God's children, and He don't make mistakes. I am the way I am, because that's what He wanted me to be. If the book is right, and I'm supposed to avoid temptation, well, there ain't much point worrying about it now. What's done is done. There ain't no changing it. So the only thing I can do is enjoy this life I have the best I know how. That's on that, Lee McCarthy. He got it. Do what feels right by me, and when the day comes, I'll meet the devil with my head held high. Because I know who I am and what I've done, and I've made peace with that. Mic drop. Amen. Lee McCarthy. Bill dropped his gaze, fresh tears rolling forth, and hid his face away behind his scraggly hair. Yeah, stick it to those people. Quote-unquote people. I don't know how to do that. How to feel that. You need to make peace with yourself, Bill. It can't have been easy for you all these years. Especially considering what you've done to all those poor people. People like me. People like you. His head shot up sharply, and his face crumpled when I said it out loud. was like he was surrendering a cause he didn't even know he'd been fighting for. Like me? I shook my head gently. You know what you are, Bill. And you're smart enough to know it ain't any other man or woman what made you feel it. It's all inside you. You've got to accept it, or you'll be warring with yourself till your last breath. It's your nature. It's part of who you are. Bill's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I can't. It's a sin. It's unnatural. I'm unnatural. You're Bill McCoy, no more and no less than you've ever been. Question is only whether you're willing to stand up and finally face the truth about what you are and what you've done, or if you're going to keep hiding away till it eats you from the inside out. Bill took a deep, shuddering breath, then suddenly ripped himself away from me. You don't know the worst of it, Blackjack. And if you did, you'd rightly put a hole in my forehead. A chill ran through me at the thought of what was worse than cold-blooded murder. And say it. Confess your sins, Bill, and let the Lord judge you. I held my hands up, palms open, showing him I didn't have no gun. This is between you and him. Bill surprised me by shaking his head sadly. No, it ain't. It's between me and all of them, and you. I peered into Bill's face and asked him the question that I'd been yearning to know the answer to for 8 years. Why did you do it, Bill? Why did you kill Jimmy Kiefer? He was the first. The first one. He seemed to lose his nerve, but then steeled himself and swallowed. Looking me in the eye, he continued with a stronger voice. He knew. Jimmy was the first man, whatever seemed different to me. He struggled to get the word out, but continued. My mind was blown that Bill had even known Jimmy personally before he shot him. I didn't know what answer I was expecting, but it weren't that. I went to him. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was angry and confused, and I needed to know why he was different. Why it made me feel different. He was gentle, he was kind, he explained to me what I thought I already knew. But I grew up a good Christian boy, and I was revolted. It was like there were two of me, and I didn't know which one to listen to. I was weak and stupid, and I went to Jimmy again one night. Begged him to make me understand. I tried to force myself on him. I was terrified of myself, of him, and of everything I was feeling, but I was out of my mind, and I just had to know. My eyes were slowly widening in horror as I grasped the full story. He wouldn't have me. He had you by then, and he said he didn't want nobody else. He told me no, and he turned me away. It ended real ugly. I was so afraid he knew my secret and he'd tell everyone because of what I tried to do. Thinking about it long and hard, I didn't sleep. I couldn't bear the idea that he knew. He knew. I convinced myself it wasn't true. It had been a one-time blip for one particular man, and I could move on. But something was holding me back from getting back to normal. And it was him. It was Jimmy Kiefer. He had to be silenced so I could move on. I knew I'd rather be branded a murderer than what I might really be. So I did what seemed to be the only thing I could do. I killed him. He really took things into his own hands. I was shaking in my boots hearing Bill's story, remembering Jimmy's carefree affection and joy. To think he died for nothing. It was all I could do to refrain from punching him clean in the jaw right then. I forced myself to hold back though, at least until this diatribe was over. Then I'd see what came next. Bill's voice trembled as he made himself carry on. After that, I skipped town. You were after me, and, well, Jimmy was a popular man. I'd made enemies. But with him gone, I could tell myself it was over. It was all over. Then, 6 months later, and a few towns further over, it happened again. He's just killing all his crushes. And everywhere I'd go, and every time I'd settle, it happened over and over. It grew into almost a routine. Getting these feelings, fighting myself, then finally killing whoever it was it was cause I couldn't handle what I was. Better to carry on down the path of destruction than admit I'd been wrong. Admit I was what I knew all along I was. He grit his teeth and stared up at the dark sky, littered with stars, almost as if he was trying to talk directly to God. I picked up Nancy, but if anything, that made it all worse. So I ran. I ran far, where nobody would find me. If nobody came after me, then there'd be nobody to blame. Nobody to hurt. It wouldn't happen again. The plan was perfect. Except for you, Blackjack. No matter where I go, you always find me. And now, here we are, 2 enemies at the back end of nowhere, and I'm getting those feelings again. For you. I'm tired, Lee. I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to be the man to put an end to you. All these years, you've been like a conscience, dogging me, reminding me of my sins. But when it comes down to it, who's the man acting for God? Is it the killer, or is it his conscience? I can't do it no more. I can't be the outlaw I became. But I can't go back and admit to what I always was. I grabbed Bill's shoulder and looked him straight in the eye. You were right. That was far worse than what I imagined. But it ain't too late for you, Bill. It ain't never too late. No, not a crying CG. Also, his hair's looking super nice. I love this CG art. He was shaking his head, the tears beginning to flow once more. He dropped to his knees, a dust cloud rising up as he moved, and slowly took the gun from the ground beside him. I was afraid for a moment, but then his shaky hand rose and offered it to me. But first, do it, Blackjack. End me before I go crazy. Before I have to remember. Before I have to choose. No, bro, no, no. Why are we pointing it at him? No! I took the gun, my fingers curling round it. It felt cold and foreign in my palm. Bill was directly in front of me, his tears dripping into the sand. He drew a small cross with his finger and spoke in a quaking voice. Do it. I deserve it for what I'd done to them and to you. It was true. I would have done it a week ago without a thought. I was ready to shoot him then. Our Father who art in heaven. So why now was my hand so shaky? Hallowed be thy name. Bill's face swam before me, and memories of Jimmy came rising to the surface of my brain. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. He killed him, on earth as it is in heaven. He killed all of them in cold blood. Give us this day our daily bread. He was a murderer, an outlaw, a criminal. And forgive us our trespasses. My finger curled on the trigger, and I took aim at his forehead. And we forgive those who trespass against us. As we, Bill shook as he felt the cold metal touch him. Lead us not into temptation. Just pull the dang trigger and it'll all be over. But deliver us from evil. The last 8 years came down to this moment. For thine is the kingdom. One bullet. The power and the glory. One shot. Forever and ever. A life for a life. Amen. What? We get to choose? I don't want to shoot him. I'm not shooting him. Put down the gun. Maybe it like does a psych out. You click shoot Bill and then it doesn't work. With a long groan that ended in a growl, I wrenched my arm away and threw down the gun. Bill slowly gazed up at me with wide eyes. His voice was barely a whisper. Why? You ain't worth the bullet. You're a monster, Bill, but there's time yet to redeem what you've done. Oh my god, all my save files gotta go backwards. Let's go backwards on this. Overwrite the save. You ain't worth the bullet. You're a monster, Bill, but there's time yet. Okay, we're gonna go the redeeming route since that's what McCarthy's been doing. Or what he's been saying. You spend a long time doing wrong, but if you've got the strength to accept who you're meant to be, then you have a lot of time left in this life. I think that'd be better served undoing what bad you did by doing good, instead of lying in the ground. But that ain't for me to decide, and I'm not gonna be the one to put a bullet in you. Bill didn't respond. Renewed sobs racked his whole body, shaking him from head to foot. I didn't know what the heck to do with him. There weren't no more I could say. He had to come to terms with himself on his own now. The taste of his kiss still lingered on my mouth. I wasn't sure if I wanted him to make it through the night or not, but the one thing I knew for sure, that very indecision was why I couldn't be the one to pull the trigger. From this point on, it was between Bill and his conscience. It's tough. I left him in the same spot, his gutting sobs splitting the air, and went into the farmhouse. Again, Nancy's dead body is still, like, right over there. There was nobody left here to be afraid of, and I needed some sleep before I headed out tomorrow. I found a bedroll inside and curled up, still faintly able to hear the sound of Bill crying into the empty night. I'd had the chance to do it, and had walked away. Deep down, I knew I'd made the right call. Did we take the gun with us? Or did we leave it with him? Sorry, Jimmy, but revenge will just have to wait. We'll have to wait just a little bit longer. I fell asleep from pure exhaustion not long after. When I awoke, it was real quiet. Too quiet. The sun was up, though barely. I couldn't have been asleep more than an hour. Where was Bill? I staggered up and stretched. Then, with a sense of trepidation, I stepped out the farmhouse door. Bill was nowhere to be seen. For a moment, I panicked, thinking maybe he'd gone through with it. But there weren't no body in sight, neither. What about Nancy's body? Like, Bill? You out here? Cautiously, I stepped out, calling for him. The place he'd been last night was still all mussed up and stained dark from his tears. But the man himself was absent. After a little while looking, I finally saw a piece of ragged paper pinned to the wall he'd held me against not a few hours ago. Lee, I've gone to Golders Rock. You were right. It's time for me to face up to who I am. I killed people in cold blood, and I should do this the right way. I'll answer for my crimes, and I'll give the hangman his boots. Thanks for not giving up on me. See you in the next life. Bill. Shoot. I ripped the letter off the wall and took off straight out of the camp towards town. This wasn't what I meant when I told him to come to terms with himself. That idiot was going to die for no reason, even though he'd already decided to do the right thing. What do you mean no reason? He killed the mayor. He's a wanted criminal. I had to stop him by any means necessary. I had to make him see that he could do some good in this dang world if he'd only stay here and try. Come on, McCarthy, go, go, go! You don't have a horse, you're gonna have to run to town. It occurred to me as I ran flat out that not long ago I wouldn't have ever considered Wild Bill as anything other than a monster. And here I was trying to stop him from giving his life away. What change can be made in a man over a short period? And that's exactly the reason I had to stop Bill. He'd only just found his humanity. With every step, I dreaded I was already too late. Luckily though, soon enough, I caught sight of a familiar red neckerchief. Oi, Bill! He paused ahead of me and turned back. I couldn't make out his features. You better dang well wait there for me. I was out of breath and sure my lungs couldn't carry a shout very far, but he seemed to have heard me. He didn't move as I approached him, slowing to a jog. His face was one of determination. As soon as I came next to him, he spoke. Don't think you're gonna stop me from doing this, Lee. I've made up my mind. I know. But look, don't you think you're being hasty here? You've got a lot left to give back if you let yourself. I don't know how to do nothing good. I ain't that kind of man. All I ever did was kill and run and kill. I ain't even got the gold from these Native Americans. They sold us down the river. I got nothing to start from and nowhere to go. What came out of my mouth next surprised both of us. Then come with me. I'll be jumping to the next train out of this goddamn back in town today. There's gotta be a corner of America where they still haven't heard of you. We'll go there and I'll help you. Think about it, Bill. You owe that to the men who ain't got a chance to do nothing no more. You owe it to Jimmy, to me, and to yourself. Giving yourself up is a waste. My tone was almost pleading now, but it didn't seem to be changing his mind. You already decided you wanted to live, at least enough to throw away the gun. So keep finding that will, because you've got a lot more in you yet. Bill shook his head, though I got the sense he was wavering. I've decided this is the right thing to do. But this is as much as I can do, Lee. Don't push me no more. I don't have the strength left to fight. I can't wake up every morning knowing what I am, what I've done. That's a coward's words. You ain't no coward. Bill's sad smile was haunting. Yeah, I am. That's all I've ever been. A goddamn freaking coward. I could see he weren't gonna change his mind right here, but there was definitely something in his voice, in his eyes. He was still crying out for help. I formulated a plan in my head, but to Bill, I only sighed and nodded. Fine. Then at least let me escort you into town. You can explain what you've done and clear my name of the murder. Let me take the bounty money. You owe me that at least. Sure. Won't matter where I'm going anyways. So with that, I walked beside him towards the town I'd hoped never to see again. He passed the spot where he tried to force me to service him, and I glanced sideways. His jaw was set and his eyes cast down. I had never seen a more broken man. I didn't regret my offer to let him travel with me. At the end of it all, Bill had always been my constant companion throughout the years. What did it matter if he was next to me instead of inside my head? This way, I could keep an eye on him, make sure he was doing the right thing, and put him down if he ever tried to go back to his old ways. We're gonna get a bad end, aren't we? We've been getting the bad end as our first ending for these routes. We walked into town and surprisingly, nobody was around. It must have been a Sunday or something. I lost track of time out there. Sheriff. It was a good thing for us though, because we could walk right to the sheriff's station unimpeded. I took a deep breath and faced Bill before opening the door. You ready? He nodded. Sheriff Cartwright. Oh, Sheriff! We've got some splaining to do. I burst open the door and announced my presence, holding Bill by the scruff of his collar. I brought you the man behind Dalton's murder. The sheriff came running out of his office, gun already trained on the pair of us. Lee McCarthy again? What in blazes are you doing back here? Twice now you should have run for the hills. Third time ain't lucky for you, little jailbird. You ain't listening to me again, Cartwright. And it'll be your own dang fault if you don't hear this out. Wild Bill is confessing to the murder. It's true. Bill's deep, gravelly voice cut over the sheriff's protested interruption. I done it. Me and Nancy Dalton together. Blackjack found me and brought me in alive. Cartwright stopped mid-yell, his mustache twitching. What in the heck? It's true what I told you before. Bill was hired to kill Dalton, and Nancy was in on it for the money. So where is she then? If this testimony is true. Without skipping a beat, I answered. When I got out and caught Bill, she ran. Knew the game was up. Don't know where in the heck she went and don't rightly care. She was only an accomplice. Cartwright looked like he still didn't believe us, but his gun was now down by his side. Look, Sheriff. I'm telling you here and now that it was me. My boys got him drunk off his butt at Dead Man's Rest while I waited at the house. I'd broken in through a back window. When he came back in, I shot him and ran. I was under orders from the local Native Americans who'd offer us a fair price in gold. They double-crossed us, though. They never had that much to offer, and when it came to it, they weren't ever gonna pay. So now my boys are gone, Nancy ran away, and here you see me, caught by Blackjack and about to be strung up. That's all you need to know. I was impressed with the cool and detached way Bill recounted the events. The only way I knew he was struggling to hold it together was the slight shaking of his shoulders under my hand, which still held his collar. I prayed he'd make it just a few more minutes. You got a confession, Sheriff, and you got the people what paid him. But why would the Native Americans kill Dalton? He was their ally. This whole thing stinks to high heaven. Bill rolled his eyes in a dramatic show of exasperation. They want your land, fool. Dalton wouldn't sign over his brother's ranch, so while you were chasing down dead leads, they were gonna sweep in here and take it for themselves. Still might if you don't hurry up and show them what you've cottoned on by getting more feds down here. Cartwright was opening and closing his mouth like a fish. It was clear he'd never been spoken to in this manner by a pair of outlaws before. But everything Bill said made sense clear as day, so he couldn't rightly dismiss it. You have your confession. The sheriff nodded slowly, as if in a daze. Then he took a sharp breath and focused in on me. Alright, McCoy is guilty for the murder of Earl Dalton. Escort him to his cell. I brought Bill over to the jail and pushed him inside. He didn't resist, allowing the bars to be slammed shut behind him. Then the sheriff rounded on me. But you, McCarthy, you broke out of jail. Get in that cell. Don't matter if you were innocent. It's still against the law. Yeah, I know. But I brought in Wild Bill McCoy. What's the bounty on his head? 1,000, was it? More? What are you getting at? Well, it can't be that much to pay for my bail, can it now, Sheriff? Especially since you know I didn't do nothing wrong in the first place. So I'll take my bounty, pay off my bill, and be on my way. Cartwright's eyes narrowed, but he knew he had nothing on me. No way the feds would agree to keep me in jail based off no real crimes. He'd be better off taking the money. So I waited in the station while he sorted the paperwork and then grudgingly handed over the remainder of the bounty. Gotta say, McCarthy, I don't know how you done it. I expected Bill McCoy to be much more dead than alive. I shrugged, tucking the notes away in my bag. Sometimes living life out on the road gets too tiring, even for people like him. Watch out for the Native Americans. I believe him when he says they paid him to do it. Yeah. The sheriff rubbed his face tiredly. Soon as I get a hangman scheduled, I'll pay them a visit. Make sure they know what they're entitled to. Thanks, McCarthy. I'm enough of a man to know when to admit I was wrong. Just letting me know you're still here. Very lovely gams. Glad you're still sticking around. Finishing this tale. He held out his hand, and with a grin, I shook it. It was nice to be leaving town on a good note for once. Your plan, McCarthy? You said you had a plan in your head? Game. Ah. Yeah, isn't it? The writing is pretty good. I left the station with my head held high, stopped in at the grocer's to buy supplies, and made my way out to the old train station. There was an old rattler sitting there, ready to depart sometime later in the afternoon. I found a carriage with a decent view of the town and sat on the edge, slinging my bag inside. Now all there was left to do was wait. I had taken the pin out of my bounty hunter's badge and put it through Bill's collar. When the sheriff left later this afternoon to see the natives, Bill would have the chance to pick the lock and get out. I knew he was capable of it, and I believed that faced with the prospect of the gallows, he still had enough will to survive to make use of it. I told him where I would be, and now I'd wait. Wait and hope. It surprised me how strongly I felt about this, but I truly believe Bill could be a good man. He needed time, and he needed help, but if I could be that prop for him, maybe with enough years on the right track, he could break even on all the evil he'd committed in the past, and I could think of no better goal for myself either. After so long looking only for revenge, wasting years on the trail in the name of someone who wasn't ever coming back, it'd be good to focus on someone who was still here. Someone who could really use my help. I felt a peace in my heart at the thought and knew it was the right choice. Jimmy could rest now. I'd found a new goal with my life, and I'd honor him by doing what he couldn't so long ago, making Bill a better man. I waited a while, up on the train, alone with my thoughts, but I never doubted for a second that Bill would come. And sure enough, just as the sun began to descend, I saw a figure clambering hastily up the hill towards me. The familiar black hat and red neckerchief triggered a wave of relief. I put down the apple I'd been munching on and hopped off the stationary train to greet him. Oh? Oh? We get a good ending? Oh my god, the handshake CG. He arrived, panting and wide-eyed, and I held out my hand. There we go, brothers in arms. He grasped it firmly, the muscles in his arm rigid as he pulled in closer. His eyes, for the first time I had ever seen, were shining. I'm gonna do this. You were right. You've always been the conscience I needed. Help me, Lee. I want to spend the rest of my life atoning for everything I did. This kind of feels like a different person, though, not gonna lie. I guess that's the point. I want to make things right. I ain't gonna take the coward's way no more. He released my hand and dropped the pin back into it. I curled my fist around it and motioned for him to get on the train. Best get started then. I'm gonna be by your side every step of the way, and you best believe it ain't gonna be easy. Bill grinned. I'm counting on it. Soon enough, the train fired up its engines. As I watched Golders Rock slide out of sight, I thought of all that's happened since I came here. Then I looked at the man beside me, his jaw set and his eyes fixated on the horizon, and started to look forward to all we'd accomplish. Together. Everyone say "Aww." The end. But there's no ending CG. So is there a better ending for him, or is this it? Is this the good end? No, this is a good end. But is there a better end? And then is there a worser end? I'm gonna go back and find out, so. You love this? I'm so glad! Yeah, it's really well written, in my opinion, and the topics, it handles everything really... It's like... They tackle the serious topics really well. Bisexuality is very much satisfied. I am glad. I played a previous game of theirs, I believe it's free on Steam, called Your Dry Delight. That was also really well written, in my opinion. And then this is one of their other games. So that game made me check out this game. And I love cowboys, so yeehaw, you know I had to get this. And you, watashi, me? And you, dear audience. Gallium Games of Argent Games. Yeah, Argent Games is the dev of Your Dry Delight. And I think Gallium Games is their subset thing where they collab with other peoples. Thanks for playing. Wow, Bill McCoy. So like this McCarthy looks very different from the in-game McCarthy. Did we get everything? Got everything. Spoilers! I'm gonna go back and hit the other options for everything to see, so. Healing with the bullet. Oh my god, what if we shoot him? It's crazy. You're gonna drop off? This really made you feel a lot better. I'm so glad it made you feel better. Thank you so much for staying. I know it's pretty late, or I guess early for you now. Have a good rest, Stanley. Thanks for sticking around. And I'm glad you enjoyed this. What am I doing? I have to... Where's the skip option? I skip the ones that I don't. Skip the ones... Okay. That was the same ending. Okay. Blessings be. Have a good one. Load. What if I shoot him? Nobody look. I'm gonna shoot him. I met him dead in the eyes and pulled the trigger. The end. The crack of the gunshot rang out through the still night air. I guess this is a bad ending. Also, if there's a third ending. It was as if everything moved slower than regular speed. The pain, confusion, and fear in his eyes drained away, replaced by the cold, empty blanket of death. The light inside him went out. His body slumped forward and landed with a thud in the dust at my feet. And then, everything was quiet. There was nothing but the sound of my own deep, heavy breaths, amplified 100 times over. My heartbeat racing against my ribs in the knowledge that it was finally over. It was done. Somehow, though, it didn't feel like I thought it would. I'd expected a feeling of relief or peace that Jimmy was finally laid to rest and my long chase over. But in its absence, there was only a crushing loneliness. This should have been the culmination of the last 8 years of my life. Wasn't it you, McCarthy, who said when you were held at gunpoint by McCoy, fight me like a man? Like, this ain't a fair fight? Like... But when I looked back on it, everything I'd done had been for Jimmy, to get back at Bill. Bill had been my last remaining link to the memories I loved so well. Now that it was finished, McCoy was dead and gone, and I had nothing left. No purpose, no direction, no drive. The memories of Jimmy I'd been clinging onto faded away like mist in the sun. What would become of David once Goliath was slain? My breath misted up in front of me, in the cool of the night air. I suddenly felt the chill sharply. Looking down at Bill's body, I had a choice to make. I decided to leave him where he lay. I didn't have enough care to bury the man, but I felt as though dragging him back around on the back of a horse would be a disservice. In his final moments, he repented. He knew what he'd become. Besides, this strange new feeling of being alone wouldn't be made any better by bringing the reminder along with me. From now, the world was mine alone, to choose my path forward. I couldn't go back to Golders Rock and prevent the consequences of Dalton's death. The path had been closed off to me, so I had to hope that things would somehow work out. Maybe Taza would find a way. Better for me to forget what happened here. I picked up the gun and holstered it, hoisting my bag with the other hand. Then I turned from the scene with a final glance back at Bill's drying blood. Could he have ever been a better man? In some other life, maybe? The world would never know. With a final deep breath, I faced to the east and headed into the coming sunrise, leaving the echoes of my past behind me. A new day was dawning. This is the bad end. So we did get the good end on the first time for his route. But there's so many other options. It can't just be the shoot or don't shoot. Maybe there's an option where, like, he comes with us during that. Like, he doesn't go back to town. We don't pull off those shenanigans. But Bill? You're holding on to my pee-pee? His eyes turned to mine. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. I'm just gonna skip until... No, it's the same. It's the same. It's the same. Okay, load. I'm gonna load from the beginning of his route. Is it this one? No, it's actually the next one. So load. This one. Why don't you untie me and face me in a fair duel like a real man, McCoy? Bill sneered at me. Is it the same? I think it's the same. Okay. An outlaw in denial of his crimes. That ain't a good look. Yeah, they're just giving us like quote-unquote fake choices. Because he'll respond the same way. Until the very end. We're in jail. We are in jail. Interesting how you compare us, Bill, given you hate my guts. I already know. It's just the last choice. Shoot or don't shoot. Well, darn shame. You'll never know what I can do to a man. My sarcasm was not appreciated. That was the only new line. And then, yeah, this doesn't matter. I'm gonna go Bill, question mark. Then we're gonna not shoot him. Oh, I forgot about this. Okay, let me save again. Let me save here. Bill, you okay there? You good, bro? He turned lucid. It's the same. He's finding out. He's confessing everything. Don't shoot. Put the gun down. Put down that dang old gun. Love his hair here. You can redeem what you've done. Skip-a-rooney. What? What was that ending? Wait, what was that ending? Wait, hold on. Was it the same result? You okay there? Bro, you good? You Gucci? Gucci gang, Bill? Go here, save. Down the gun. Okay. You say why? I say you can redeem yourself. Filter and respond. Okay. And then what? Okay, he's crying. We go to bed while he's crying. Did he... Okay. Did he kill himself in this scenario? Where was Bill? Where's Bill? Wow, Bill McCoy. Where you at, bro? Wait. Wait, that was new. That was new. That was new. I think he did it. My heart sank. As I was greeted by the sight I now realized I'd hoped not to see. Bill lay dead in a pool of blood, his wide and frightening eyes still open. So that was it then. All I'd gone through, all that indecision, trying to make him understand. Trying to help him. In the end, it hadn't been enough. It had been easier for him to face down the barrel of that gun than his own feelings. I sighed deeply as I approached his body. At least, I suppose he'd gone out on his own terms. I regretted that he hadn't found a way to live. But my conscience was clear. I'd not been the one to do it. In the end, for all that Bill had done, he was a lost soul desperately in need of peace. I hoped that now he had it. Though it was a long job, I took the time to find a shovel in one of the old storehouses and dig a grave. I felt that Bill deserved at least that, God-fearing man that he was. Besides, I hadn't killed him, so I didn't deserve the bounty money anyways. When the job was done, I carried him over to it and laid him to rest with a prayer. After the dirt was all back in place, it felt eerie, like something huge had just come to an end, which in a way I guess it had. My long chase was done. We buried Bill and we leave Nancy's body somewhere rotting. I could forge a new life, so go places I dreamed of going before all this happened. I could let Jimmy's spirit be at peace. Sadly, I couldn't do nothing about the situation at Golders Rock. I had a hope that maybe Taza would be able to come through for me on that front. With a final nod of respect to the unmarked grave, I turned and walked away, into the desert beyond which lay all of America, waiting for me to explore it. The end. Okay, we did do a good ending. I'm glad for the good ending. God, this is heavy and sad. This ending, Jesus. This is worse than us shooting Bill, I feel like. Alright, that was Dead Man's Rest. We can reminisce. Going back. We got Jedediah. Jeb or Jed, I forget. We got Hollis. Mr. Hollis. We've got Cartwright. We've got Taza. Taza was the first route I did. I still like Jed's crying CGs. Those are like very... It's beautiful and like really sad. Like, Jesus Christ. And then Mr. McCoy. This is a different artist too. Yo, that's crazy. That was crazy. Brothers. Alright, cool. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. I enjoyed that. That'll be it for today. Next week, I have an idea of what we'll be doing. It will be a new series of games. Not games plural, a new series, so... I'm just gonna say, we'll be playing, we're gonna go back to 2013. We're gonna be playing Danganronpa. The first game. I'm revisiting that. I've replayed it. I played it multiple times, and I originally read it. But what I'm gonna do this time is play it on hard mode and play it with English dub. So that will, I hope not to cringe too hard with the English dub. I like the Japanese version, but I want to like get something new out of this and appreciate English dubs more. So we'll do that next week. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Take care. Goodbye.